Hello and welcome to another episode of the London Something podcast with myself, DJ Ron. And welcome to 2023 and our first episode for this year. Before I go any further, I'd like to thank all of you who have been supporting the podcast, because without you, this wouldn't exist. Particularly those of you who have been commenting, subscribing and liking. And I just want to say one more thing before we go any further. Big shout out to our sponsors, West End DJ, because they have been very supportive of us. And I also want to say a big shout goes out to the Halley as well, because this is where we do our filming. They've been really supportive of our venture since the very beginning. And I think they've bent over backwards to kind of like help us out in here. And I want to say a big shout goes out to the Halley. Thanks for everything you do for us. There's a lot of talk about legends in this business. I hear it a lot. Do you know what I mean? And fair play. But you know what? I don't think they really get much bigger than this. I'd like to introduce our first guest. Only one. There's only one of them. A man like Fabio. What are we saying, Fabs?
What are you saying, brother?
You good, yeah?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too,
It's good
bro.
to be here. Good to be here, man. Yeah.
Bro, you know something? Fabs, I've got to tell you about yourself a little bit first. You've changed. And I'll tell you why. For those of you who don't know Fabio, he's one of the hardest men to get hold of. For years, he's been known for decades as the man who says, you know what, yeah, give me a call. And then when you call, he's busy. Do you know what I mean?
Nothing.
So to have him in this chair, mark my words, it is a very special thing, and I appreciate you taking the time to come out here.
I appreciate
Do you know
you
what I mean?
having me here, man.
You know what I mean, Fabs?
It's an honour. It's an honour.
We've been trying our thing here, and
Of course.
I think, where were we? Actually, you know where we were? We were at the
The
rehearsal
orchestra
for the first orchestra.
That's right.
When you mentioned about this, and to my surprise, you were like, you know what? You were ready to come on, you know what I mean? So that was some time ago, and here we are now. These things take time sometimes.
That was a year ago.
Was that long, yeah?
It was a year ago, man, and we was outside the rehearsals, and you kind of mentioned it to me, and I'd seen, I think I saw the Voltage one.
That's what you said, yeah.
I saw the Voltage one. I was really impressed with
I remember
everything.
you said, yeah.
With the lighting, the way Voltage spoke about stuff. I thought, because the thing is with this thing, you can know someone for years and not know anything about them.
Well, this is the beauty of this show, to be honest with you, and what I found and why I'm so encouraged about keeping it up, because I hear things about people that I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo. I mean, funny enough, you say Voltage's episode, when we finished, it was like he went, yeah, he had to breathe out. It's like he was holding his breath. He was like,
you weren't used to that kind of work there.
yeah,
no?
he was like, boy, Ron, that was like a therapy session. You know what I mean? Yeah, big up my boy Ruin, you know what I mean?
You should ask for a little change still.
But yeah, Fabs, I think you know the routine here. You know what I mean? This is not so much about the careers, although I believe this one will be about your career as well. But first, Fabio, talk to me. What was it like? What was your earliest experiences growing up as a young man? Where were you born? Tell me a bit about your childhood.
Well, I was born in Brixton, man.
You was born in Brixton, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're Brixtonite.
Dirty South.
Okay.
And I was born in the days when Brixton wasn't
as
like
it is, gentrified. Yeah, gentrified. Yeah.
I was born, we was on the back of the whole Windrush thing.
Okay.
And the mad thing is, I was actually watching something the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And as you come into Brixton, there's this just weird monument outside Stockwell tube station.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
And I've always wondered what that was. And then I watched something about when the Windrush happened, and they moved all the Jamaicans to South London. It was an air raid shelter.
Oh, no way.
In the 40s, and they put all the Jamaicans in there and got them work, and the Jamaicans lived there. And after a while, the Jamaicans were like, we can't live in this shelter. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, we can't live like this. So they found cheap housing in Brixton. And that's why Brixton became that.
One of the first places.
One of the first places
That's interesting.
of very high Jamaican population.
That's interesting.
And growing up in Brixton was very insightful. I'd never change it, man. It was, I had a modest upbringing. My dad worked for a place called Godfrey Davis, which was a car company fixing cars and stuff like that. And my mum worked as a nurse. And, you know, we had a modest upbringing. You know, we weren't dirt poor, but, you know, it was kind of like, my mum used to say, you'll never live to want, which is a saying that's always resonated with me, you know what I'm saying? And they worked really hard, man. And it was kind of like, it was shifts where my mum used to work and then my dad used to do night work. And then go in school in Brixton. It was a funny time because I think it was just before the Thatcher era. But there was always tension in Brixton. I always felt like there was, because there was such a high black population, there was still, you know, there was a lot of Irish people. We grew up with a lot of Irish, which we always felt this affinity with Irish people. And around that time as well, it was also around the time when the IRA was prevalent. You know, they started to bomb mainland Britain instead of they took the fight to the mainland.
To the mainland, yeah.
So we got this connection because then the Irish started to get discriminated against, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they started to get the hardship. So I always remember all the kids I played with as a youth were Irish.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought, why is this kind of like this huge Jamaican population? Why is it Brixton? Like, you know, you move a mile further down the road and you had Streatham, which was the NF had their headquarters, the National Front had their headquarters in Streatham. Okay. And Streatham was a kind of place after dark.
You didn't go?
You didn't go.
Right.
You didn't go there,
I didn't even know that.
We had a place called Cat's Whiskers.
I didn't even know that.
Which was on Streatham High Road.
Yeah.
And bruv, trust me, as soon as that place finished at 11 o'clock, you had to sprint down the road.
No way.
Man used to have to get on the bus real quick and just get out of there. Streatham was the kind of place you used to hear man get beaten up at night. And, and it was literally just bridged. It literally says, where I live, you walk out the main road, you walk down the road, this Streatham.
I didn't know that.
So there was this kind of like, you know, I always thought, well, why Brixton? And then I found that out. But Brixton was great because Brixton, there was always music playing. Blues dances on a corner. Or if I was sleeping in bed, I used to just hear reggae music bumping out. My dad used to be playing music all the time. And it just felt like, it just felt like the place, man. And it just, there was so much sound systems come from Brixton.
Yeah, I mean, it has got this reputation as far as I remember anyway. I mean, when I was just leaving secondary school was when I first started getting into sort of like sound systems. So I would have been like 16, something like that.
Yeah.
Even the knowledge of sound systems. Yeah. And all of them were from South London.
That's right.
They were all from South London.
Yeah, they were all from South London.
The idea of at the time anyway, the idea of a East London sound didn't really resonate because I was following Saxon.
Okay.
And I'd follow them all over.
Right,
We'd go everywhere to follow Saxon.
Yeah.
Until one day, which is an interesting story, they played at the Methodist Church in Stoke Newton against Jemmy Magic. And that time, Flinty was in Jemmy Magic.
Shut up, man.
Flinty was in Jemmy Magic.
That's crazy.
And he completely ironed out Philip Levi. Ironing board. One day I'll play you the tape. I found it and I sent it to Flinty the other day.
I don't know if he posted because I saw something.
Yeah, I posted it.
He was on there murdering it, bro.
Oh my God, yeah. And then from then, you know, like everything changed. You know what I mean? You know. But yeah, you know, so are your parents still with us, Fab?
My mum's not with us anymore.
Right,
my mum passed away about 15 years ago. My dad's still going strong though.
I saw that. I can see that.
Yeah, man, he's still doing his thing.
I saw your twin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
He's still doing his thing.
Yeah. And what about siblings and that?
Yeah, my sister. I've got a sister that's here, and she. It's you know, we grew up musically.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to, because when I was younger, you know, I've even to this day, I've always embraced all kind of music. And a big thing when I was growing up was Top of the Pops.
Come on.
Right?
Come on. We all knew
Top
about
of the Pops was a
big thing. We knew, we actually sat.
It was a big thing.
Don't try and front if you didn't.
Right?
If you're our age, Top of the Pops.
It was a big thing.
And that countdown on the radio, they used to top 40.
They used to do the top 40.
Exactly, yeah.
Because
they were
people
big,
got to remember, there's limitless music now.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Yeah.
That was the only thing that you saw. If you listen to people on the radio, you saw them on Top of the Pops. So there was that mystery. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
You get me? Like even these American stars, it was kind of like when they came on Top of the Pops, it was just like, wow, this is discovery, bro.
Yeah.
So me and my sister used to put on some towels on our head and pretend to be a group called the Groovy Gang. And she was Pauline Groovy, and I can't remember what my name was. And I used to be the presenter.
Yeah.
And she used to be the star. Like she was like the Diana Ross kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like I used to come on and be on the mic, and I used to be like, yeah, coming up next is Pauline Groovy, and she used to come out and sing. And
that's amazing.
so music was all around us. My dad used to, on a Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, used to sit down and play a bit of John Holt, Ken Booth, reggae.
John Holt and Ken Booth have got a lot to answer for.
But my dad wasn't really so much into T Brown and them conscious man like Gregory Isaacs. He was more into Ken Booth, John Holt, them kind of guys. They were a bit smoother, and they weren't as political. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
So he was down with that kind of stuff. But I always was fascinated by the music, and my earliest memory is actually very similar to, I can't remember what Sean Paul tune it was. You know when the kid walks down the stairs?
Yeah.
And he walks in and there's a sound system thing going on, and they say the music stopped and he's like, go back up the stairs.
Yeah.
Very similar thing happened because my mum and dad used to have parties on a Saturday night with cousins and, their cousins and relatives coming round, big people things, you know what I'm saying? And one day I must have been about 2.5, 3. I heard the music booming, and I took myself up and walked down the stairs. And bro, it's the most vivid memory I've got because I was 3, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked into the front room, and I just saw people dancing, and no one noticed I was there for about 30 seconds. And then my dad was like, what are you doing down there? What are you doing down there? Go back upstairs. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that was like, like you see in films when the door opened. Yeah. And I just saw, it was like a nightclub. Yeah. Because you open the door and you see people dancing, and I weren't expecting it. And loud music playing. And that was the start, man. That never left me.
Wow, that's interesting.
That never left me because that's my earliest memory.
Right. Yeah. So okay. So then these are like your early family experiences. But then what was it like, kind of like school-wise? What sort of memories do you have from there, and how was it for you back then in terms of like academia?
Well, I was a very bright kid. I was a very, very bright kid, and I kind of screwed up. Because I got into the wrong crowd. I got into the wrong crowd. Very, very bright. When I was 10, I wrote a book. Well, you got to write essays. And I wrote a book called The World Is My Blanket.
No way.
Yeah. That a little story that just blew my teacher's mind.
That's incredible.
He read it out in assembly, got me up on the stage, was like, phoned up my mum, was like,
this guy's got
boy
something.
Is really bright.
Yeah.
Got me to read it out in front of it was deep. Yeah. I wish I still had it. I know my mum had the book, but I don't quite know what happened to it.
Imagine that.
It was very. Another thing was that when I was younger, I had asthma.
Okay.
I was chronic. Asthmatic.
Right. Okay.
And I lost a lot of time in school. So at that time, I also got into comics. So my I had a very, very vivid mind. I was by myself a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, not at school, but then I used to educate myself with DC and Marvel comics.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which were, now you look at Marvel and you look at the whole superhero franchise, it's a big thing. And the stories, the Batman story.
Yeah, it's a big story. Yeah,
his dad gets killed.
For children.
It's deep.
Yeah.
It's, at the time you're reading it and you want the action and stuff, but beneath it, the subplots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, the Joker and
Yeah.
with Spider-Man, all the enemies, they were really well thought out, really dark characters.
You know, I never ever got into comics.
No way.
I was never ever into comics.
Bruv.
Yeah. I never ever got into comics. No,
it was
I
a
never
big
got...
thing for me. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
And it, you know, when I had spent a lot of days at home, I'd read comics, and my mum would always get me the latest Marvel and DC comics. Do you know what I'm saying? So, you know, being asthmatic got me very close to my mother as well, because she, you know, the motherly instinct kicks
she's
in.
the one who's got to look after you.
She's
the one who's got to take you
in
to
a
the
lot of ways,
doctors.
she spoilt me. She wouldn't let me do anything.
Okay.
So that's why now I'm pretty useless.
Right, in terms of like
in terms of everyday
stuff.
Everyday stuff. I
Yeah.
never learned to do it because my mum wouldn't let me do it.
She would
She would never let me do anything. She was just like, you know, sit down. You know, but I was so bad at one stage they were going to make me go to a home.
When you say bad, in what context?
Well, I used to have asthma attacks literally once a month.
So when you say home, what kind of home?
They were like, look, he's in here a lot. He's in the hospital a lot. And you know, we think it's better if we put him like in a retreat up in the countryside, because they were saying, you know, the air's fresher and we can look after him when he has these asthma attacks and blah, blah, blah. And I always remember once we come back from the hospital, my mum was kind of like, she said that to me and she said, do you want to? And I was like, no.
How interesting. I mean, I remember there was a girl, Doris Wilson. She passed away as well since we left school. And she had very bad asthma and eczema. So she was...
That's what I used to have as well.
So combined, it was like that. And I remember, a lovely girl, but I remember us teasing her quite a bit over this thing. And felt quite bad when I heard that she'd passed away from it.
Jeez.
But interestingly, also, perhaps that's the wrong word to say, interestingly, and maybe because I just don't see it and I'm not in school anymore or whatever, but I don't know whether that is still so much of a thing anymore, asthma. But certainly...
Oh, yeah, it is.
It is, yeah?
Yeah, it's still a thing.
Right, okay.
It's still a thing. I just think it's one of those things that now it's a lot more controlled.
And manageable.
You know, you've got the pumps now, you've got lots of ways you can manage it. Whereas in them days, you had an asthma attack straight down the hospital.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? And then they were like, look, he's going to grow out of it. Once he becomes a teenager, he'll grow out of it. And that's what happened. I had a really bad asthma attack in Jamaica. Really bad when we went to Jamaica.
And what happens when you have an asthma attack?
Well, basically, it's... A lot of it now is... Do you know what? Looking back, a lot of it is anxiety. So as soon as you get a blocked up nose, you find it difficult to breathe, and then you panic. You go into this panic because you're hyperventilating. And so that's what would happen. And a lot of the time, as soon as they took me to the hospital, I was fine. That's why, looking back now, it was probably anxiety that I was just freaked out as soon as I felt... You
bring it up on yourself.
Yeah, as soon as I felt my breathing go, I used to just have a panic attack and just have a complete freak out. And then you literally can't breathe, Ron.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrendous. And I used to have this a lot. And my mum really, really, you know, my dad was at work and my dad was kind of like a man's man. It was kind of like, look, you look after him. I've got to pay the bills. You get me? You know, you're the one who's...
Traditional.
Even though she had to do a day job as well. It's kind of like, you look after him. Because, you know, I'm bringing the money in. You do the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, but then my mum was very motherly and she loved that role of looking after me, and she was great at doing it. But at the same time, she spoilt me. Do you know what I'm saying? So...
Yeah, sorry.
So then I went to Jamaica, had a really, really bad asthma attack. My mum said to my brother, she gave him a little nod like, and I was like, what's that all about? He come back. My mum said to me, I've got some soup. I've got some soup for you. I said, what kind of soup? She said, don't worry about it. I've got some soup. Ron, all I can remember was me drinking this soup. And it was like someone gave me an anesthetic.
No way.
I was just gone, right?
Knocked out
clean.
Right, okay.
And I remember waking up, my chest was clear, That was the last asthma attack I had.
No way.
The last asthma attack I had.
No
right?
way.
So about 5 years before my mum died, I went, Mum, remember that time there, right? When you gave me that soup, because I never had an asthma attack after that. What was in that soup?
Yeah.
She said, I've got your brother. He said he knows 2 mans in the hills.
Yeah.
2 Rasta man. And they went and got some bush, bruv, and cooked up the bush. That was it, Ron. I've never had a touch wood.
Wow.
I've never had an asthma attack since.
That's incredible.
And it was, she didn't want to tell me at the time.
Yeah,
do you know what I
yeah.
mean? We gave you a kind of like a weed soup.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like pineapple haze
Imagine
soup.
that.
And I never ever got an asthma attack after that.
Testament then.
And
To the
it's
man
testament
them in the,
there, right?
testament
When they're
right
talking
there
about,
to the man them in the hills.
CBD and all that, bruv.
There you go.
This was the original.
Yeah, testament to
Right?
that. And how many years ago was that?
That was many years ago.
That you were a
many
child.
years ago, right? I was a kid.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of end of that. And then so I started to go to school a lot. And then the transition into music came, man.
I mean, what's interesting when you said there about the being quite bright at school is why I find that interesting, because you speak to a lot of people just generally, not to do with the podcast or anything, school wasn't necessarily their thing.
No.
You know what I mean? For whatever reason, you know, obviously it goes to show, and it's been proven time and time again, that it doesn't have to be your thing. You could still leave school without anything and be completely successful. I'm assuming you didn't do any sort of like, probably college or something like that, was it? Or
Well, I did college.
Yeah, okay.
So school was interesting because it was your survival instincts kicking. So at school, you're either a scholar and you're a bookworm and you settle down and do the thing, or you're one of the mans them. The bookworm thing, it had its disadvantages. You're probably going to get bullied. You know, you're probably, man's going to be like, yeah, you've always, you know, you get,
Yeah.
you know, you're clever.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are kind of going to take the piss out of you.
Yeah.
So after World is my blanket, this bright
World
kid.
is my blanket.
The world is my blanket, you know. That's how deep and psychological I was getting with that shit back in the day, man. And then I just, I took the other way, the other route. But what was also interesting was I had my auntie just came over from Jamaica, and she was a soul girl. And I was very, very close to her. I used to go around there all the time because she used to have like jazz albums like Bob James, Roy Ayers, Grover Washington, and stuff like that. And I always be like, wow, this music's amazing.
And how old are you then?
This time I was about 12.
Okay.
And she used to have the latest imports.
Yeah.
It weren't just like the stylistics, what was on top of the pops.
Yeah.
This was some kind of like deep shit.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, and she used to be sitting there and listening to this album, Bob James playing the keyboard. And I used to be like, wow, blew my mind.
Yeah.
But then, when I was at school, all the mans was into reggae.
Yeah.
So like, at school then I got into Steel Pulse and Dennis Brown, Gregory Isaacs, the whole sound system thing. And one thing you got to remember about them days, if you was a soul boy, that weren't where it was at in Brixton.
Yeah.
Because soul boy, they looked at you like you was really camp.
Yeah.
You wore king slippers, tight up jeans, little
wet
shirt,
look,
wet look. Shirt with
the brooch,
with the little brooch and the little tie thing, little skinny tie.
The brooch came later, actually, but
it came later. That was another. That was the Legends era.
Yeah.
And so my aunt said to me one day, "Look, you know what? You look bigger than your age. I'm going to take you to this nightclub called Crackers."
I remember that.
Crackers up in Wardour Street.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was on a Friday afternoon.
Of course I do,
yeah.
So
she's going to have to bunk off school. So I don't know how you're going to do it. So I pretended I had asthma to my mum. And I said, Aunt Elaine, she's going to take me somewhere. And So she took me to the club and she was like, look, if the bouncer say anything to you, just say 18. Right? I was about 13, 14. And bro, I got in. Bouncer didn't even look at me.
Yeah.
Didn't even look at me. I was all geared up. I had my little king slippers on, lumberjack shirt, the whole thing. And bro, I walked in. Paul Anderson was playing.
Wow.
The mighty,
Wow,
God bless his
imagine
soul.
that.
Paul Anderson was playing.
God rest his soul.
And
yeah,
a guy
yeah.
called George Power.
Of course, George Power used to be on the radio. Yeah,
George
yeah,
Power
yeah.
used to be on the radio.
That's right.
And Ron,
That
this
it.
was the next moment for me. It was just like me opening that front room door.
Yeah, yeah.
I walked in the club, bro.
At 12.
At 12. Black and white people dancing, funk music playing. It was like church. It was like a church thing. And the DJ was this guy that everyone respected. And I was like, wow, this is another world. How am I going to bridge the two? Like going to school, talking about reggae.
Yeah, yeah. Because you're still at school.
I'm still at school. I can't talk about the soul music that I love with these guys because they're not in it. And
that's a movie right there, the confliction.
It's conflictions, and people don't understand. You know, growing up was
I could
very
imagine.
conflicted on so many levels. I was this bright kid that was also a bit ghetto.
Asthma, and you have to be out of school. When
Asthma,
you are
be
at
out of
school,
school.
now you're there for longer. Which side am I going to take?
Which side am I going to take?
Oh no, I know I've gone and seen this.
Right.
I can't really talk to no one about it.
That's what I'm saying.
If I do talk to anybody about it, they're going to say rare about me.
That's what I'm saying. So it was
and
a
that's
tough
12
one.
years old.
That was at 12. So then on a Saturday night, I used to go to the blues dances. I used to go to the blues dances that was around the corner from me. And what I used to do was sneak out the window, put on my little kind of...
Classic.
I had these fake lizard skin shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Farrah slacks. You know, Burberry coat. And I used to go around the corner and they used to just be walking through the door, me and my friends. And they used to just be like the doorman and the bad man then from Brixton. They used to line up on the stairs.
Yeah.
Right? So you walked in, all the man from Brixton that's blah, blah, blah. It's just like Goodfellas. So then there was the other side of it, like Goodfellas. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a gangster. All my friends wanted to be a gangster. They all wanted to be gangsters. And they used to say, that's my guy.
Yeah.
And he's got all the girls.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? He's the man. And the
so
guy, he used to be wearing a leather coat, real peacock skin shoes. You know what I'm saying?
Peacock, you know.
And the peacock.
Yeah.
The lizard and the crocodile was dead
that's
then.
right. The
peacock
with the little dots.
The little right.
With the little dots.
You know what I'm talking about,
I know
right?
what you're talking about, Fabio.
The
Come on.
The peacock skin shoes. And reggae music used to be playing. But Lovers Rock.
Yeah.
It was Lovers Rock, right? So you know, the dance hall thing was Brixton Town Hall. You go and listen to Frontline Soprano beat, but it was like, this was like girls were in there as well, Ron. There was girls in there. So they used to do the little rubber dub thing.
Yeah.
Right? You used to get a girl and you used to find a corner and rub.
And the wallpaper, the whole rub
the
off
wallpaper, rub off.
Rub off the whole of the wallpaper.
But I remember, right? Then you used to do this thing, the two-step rub. And the first time I done it, I remember it was a girl called Valerie, a light-skinned girl. She was crazy. And I said to her, and like everyone said, yeah, that girl Valerie, you know, boy, if you can get dancing for her, you are a G.
Yeah.
And they went, go and ask her because she's going to blank you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just said to myself, you know what? I want to go and ask her. And she said yes. And I was kind of like, I was so excited. But then I was shook.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you couldn't show it.
I couldn't show it.
You didn't think you were showing it, but
I
maybe
didn't think
she
I showed
knew.
it, but I probably was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I probably fumbling around and doing all kind of doing the right moves. But me and her was up against the speaker all night, man. And that was a mad thing.
Yeah, that experience, that
was a mad thing. People don't
whatever.
understand. You never met this girl before, and you're properly rubbing up.
Yeah.
And yeah, the blues dance experience was everything.
Yeah, it's interesting that it was so early as well, because now you've got to kind of like come away from that experience and then still go back into school.
Still go back into school.
And
whatever. Try and be studious, and also be to your family. Yeah. They don't know these sides of you either.
Yeah. I'd imagine that going through that experience so early would have also matured you quicker. Because it's a big thing doing stuff that is not the school disco. This is not a school disco. This is out in the world. I weren't going nowhere when I was 13.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I wasn't. It was like as I left school. And so for you to be doing that at that age, you know, like, I mean, just generally, I believe that you would have had like a lot more, a head start to a lot more people. You know what I mean? Just being able to socialise generally, even asking Valerie.
Yeah. Because
Even asking
you got to
Valerie.
remember, as you said, this is so true because there was a big man in this party.
This is what I'm saying.
We were kids. We were
Yeah,
12, 13. Like, you know, but because we were part of this little firm, the local bad man them, do you know what I'm saying? We were kind of like way above our age.
Yeah.
Checking girls.
This is what I'm saying.
Doing, you know, trying to imitate the man them. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what we were doing.
While we're speaking on the topic of imitating the guys and being in that world, I just want to touch on something you said about the, what was it? How did you put it? That you were, yes, you were academic, that you were bright, but you fell into the wrong crowd. Give me some context about that. You fell into the wrong crowd.
Well, what does
that look like?
What it was I had my geeky friends at school, and then in my class, I used to have a couple of guys that were kind of like running the year.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what the thing was? Because all of this, everything that I say comes from my love of music. Because of my love of reggae music, and they were going out. And I used to hear them talk about going out.
You wanted to be with them.
I wanted to be with them because I was fascinated with.
And that's what drew you
That's what drew me away.
Yes.
That was the, because I didn't read them man that were going out and doing all sorts.
Yeah, but that weren't really your
That
thing.
weren't really me, because my mum used to always say, don't ever bring police to my house.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing on road, I don't really care, but don't bring police to the house.
Yeah, that's a
and
classic.
shame my family, because that was the biggest.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing when I was growing up, Ron, was the embarrassment and pride and we don't want our kid to be the stereotypical black child.
Yes.
Who's just going to have police outside the house every night.
Yes.
They didn't want that for me.
I imagine no.
Right, I could have gone to a school called Tulse Hill, which was one of the bad boy schools. My mum ended up putting me into a school which was a girls' school, and we were the first little boys.
To be safe.
You know what I mean? To be safe. There ain't no other man there.
I get the logic.
The logic was, at the end of the day, I want you to be...
To try and keep him safe.
Focus.
Yeah. And as well as that, I think, not... Actually, I want to do a disclaimer. Not that because of the fact that you were with your mum and your dad, that because of that equals X. But imagine that, you know, like having both parents and what have you and whatever, you know, like they can support each other.
That's right.
And by supporting each other gives you more space, therefore, to kind of consider other things. And by being able to consider other things, so, right, okay, what am I going to help? I need to support my child as best as I can. And you know what? Instead of just going, look, I ain't got the time, just put him there. They can stop a minute.
Of course.
Let's have a look here. You know what? It might be safer for him to be here.
They can both make those decisions.
Make those decisions together without they being rushed decisions.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, we've spoke enough about the school days and whatever, and you've touched a few times and spoke about how the music kind of like kept on drawing you in different ways, from your auntie, from following the guys to the sound system days and whatever. Yeah. You're still in school as a young teenager. And you know, you have your first experience then, you know what I mean, with the late great Paul Trouble Anderson at Crackers.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that grew into broadening then your perspective of like wanting to be like becoming closer to who you are now as Fabio the DJ.
Well, yeah. So when I left school, I then went to college, and I went to Southwark College, which was in Bermondsey. And then, you know, my life was just following this kind of the same pattern of going to school, being this bright kid, going to college. And bro, same thing happened at college, you know, hooked up with the wrong man's. I was going to college, and I'll tell you what I learned at college: how to play dominoes.
Don't lie.
That's not, I used to go in the morning, all the guys were playing, all the guys that, because college, what the attraction of college was that you didn't have to go. If you didn't want to go to lessons.
Yeah.
You know,
but to your parents, you're still
doing the thing. You're a
yeah.
scholar, and college, it's like, if you want to learn. Yeah. Well, the confliction was, Ron, I knew I was bright.
Yeah.
I knew I was a bright kid. I knew I was brighter than 99% of the kids that I was rolling with. I was far more intelligent than them. So there was always that, look, whatever your path, if your path is going to take you down the music way, you still got to have a backup plan. That's what my mum used to always say to me. I know you love the music thing, but make sure you got something else to fall back on, because that music thing ain't easy.
Yeah.
Right? So she was kind of like, you got to be studious, you're a clever guy. And, you know, then the whole thing of there must have been something slightly rebellious in me to not want to do it. I just wasn't interested, Ron.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with, I mean, I don't know whether it will ever change or whatever, but I said it to somebody recently, how often, for all the best intentions of our parents, we still end up getting brought up by our peers.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, like, and you know, like, yes, mum, yes, definitely. And you go out the door, there's still somewhere in your subconscious, but this sort of like other stuff is in your consciousness.
Yeah.
And now you're doing stuff that perhaps you would never have done.
Yeah, I would never have done. I'd never have done. And I always thought, you got to remember as well, we're going to come on to this now, I suppose, because I wanted to be a singer. Because DJ, you got to remember, in them days,
singing, you know,
this is how far back I go.
Yeah.
DJ weren't even a thing.
No, of course it wasn't.
DJ was just a guy that used to just play music.
Yeah, of course it wasn't.
There was no aspiration. I couldn't go to my parents and go,
that's way down the line.
My thing was more that I love the music.
Just the music and
the singing and watching Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. Those were your idols. Those were the real.
But as a physical DJ, no
DJ
way.
was just a bit like a jukebox. And as much as I admired Paul Anderson and George Power, I wasn't really taking that much notice.
Yeah.
It's only when my later life, it was kind of like, you know, that was Paul Anderson and George Power playing. I'm like, rah, do you know what I mean? But I wanted to be a singer. And I was not good at singing.
So what age are we talking now that you wanted to be
I'm talking about 18, 19.
So 18, 19, you wanted to sing off
I
first?
wanted to be a singer.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I wanted to be...
Who were you trying to model yourself off of then?
No one...
You must have been modelling yourself off someone, Fabs. You had to be.
Well, there was a real Brit funk thing going on. There was guys like David Joseph and Link. Loose ends and those kind of guys. So it was kind of like there was this real movement going on, and I wanted to be part of that movement. And I saw all these black artists,
that's incredible,
doing really well. And I even went for an audition.
Where?
I can't remember. I think it was in the West End, and I went for an audition with this band, and Ron, it was the most. I'd never felt so nervous.
Oh, no way.
Because we're sitting in a room and it was like an interview, like, you know, there was loads of singers there and I saw them coming in and out, and then they called me and they sat me down and they were kind of like, right, why do you want to join this band, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, interview. And then it was like X Factor.
Yeah.
Get up and sing.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was always the feeling that I wasn't inside. I was a bathroom singer.
Okay.
Sounded good in the bathroom, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't really that guy. Well, it goes back to, you know, me and my sister, Pauline Groovy.
Yeah.
You know, me wanting to be the bright lights, or wanting to be a presenter, or wanting to do something like that.
So look here then. So here we have this bright and intelligent young man kind of like trying to be pulled left, right and centre by his peers until such time, you know, like you're now kind of starting to find your way, I'd imagine, because that is a choice by yourself without your man then. I want to go to this audition. Now you're going to, I suspect now that we see like the earliest sort of sparks then of being an entertainer of sorts, All right. So then let's fast forward just a little touch between the singing and the very earliest stages of thinking I might want to do some sort of DJing and stuff like that.
Well, then I met up with Colin Dale.
Okay, yeah.
Colin Dale, the great Colin Dale, man, who plays techno now and stuff like that. He lived around the corner from me.
And so what year are we talking about here now?
We're talking about, God, it's hard to get the timelines.
Okay,
you know?
so if you don't get the timelines, roughly about the age then?
I was about 23, 24.
That's a good age.
23,
yeah,
24.
it's a good timeline. Yeah.
I met Colin Dale, and then Colin. We became really close friends. He always lived around the corner from me, but he was a soul boy, so we never really hit. But this time, I was free of that. Oh, I want to be a gangster. I don't want to be a gangster.
Yeah.
That's gone now.
Yes.
I had no interest in being that guy.
So then, to meet Colin Dale, and then just before, so you had the gangster era.
Yeah.
Then you had the singing era.
Yeah.
Then to meet Colin Dale, there had to be an era in between.
Well, what happened with that? The singing didn't happen. Colin was a DJ. Colin was a DJ from the early 80s.
Right. Okay. Oh, the early 80s.
From the early 80s, he was DJing in the early 80s, and he played at a place called Gossips.
Yeah, I remember Gossips as well.
Gossips in Dean Street.
Yes.
And the first ever gig I did, Tim Westwood gave me my first ever gig.
No way.
Tim Westwood.
No way.
Tim Westwood we used to go Gossips every Friday.
Yeah.
And the first time we ever used to get guest list, because Colin used to know Tim.
Right, okay.
Because Colin was a resident DJ in Gossips.
In Gossips, yeah.
And so we used to go every Friday, dance down the place, and people forget, Tim Westwood was a sick funk DJ.
Yeah.
Sick funk DJ.
No, I didn't know
all the latest Cameo, Earth, Wind and Fire, yeah.
Didn't know that.
He was a resident down there.
Yeah.
And one day Colin couldn't make it. And Tim rang me up and was like, Fitz, Colin can't make it. I'm really stuck for a warm-up DJ. Can you come down? And I was...
Sorry, carry on, sorry.
I was like, well, I'm not a DJ, Tim. Like, what do you want me to do? And he said, look, you got records, innit? And I was like, I still buy. I'm buying records every week at Red Records. And I've got a nice little collection. He said, just bring them down there.
Yeah, that was what I was about to ask when I went to interrupt you. Apologies for that. Was to say, like, how did he know?
Because when we went down there and we were dancing around, we were dancers as well.
And because you knew Colin,
and because I knew Colin, that affiliation
exactly
with Tim Westwood, that's how it came about.
So for him, it wasn't like a random thing.
No, it wasn't random. Tim used to phone me up and say to me, Fitz, what's the latest pre-releases out? What's the latest imports? He used to get impetus from us.
Yeah.
And I used to go, right, what did I buy today? War, Galaxy, I bought Billy Paul or something like that. And he didn't buy it what I was doing, but he used to take my advice. And he used to go out and get the tunes. And we used to go down there and support him, support Colin, really. We were supporting Colin.
Yeah.
But he was the headliner. And so anyway, I got down there. I remember getting on the decks. And the first tune I was going to play was a tune by Change. Remember the band Change?
Yeah, of course.
And I remember looking on the decks and seeing blood. My nose was...
Oh, no way.
I was bleeding. I was so nervous. I was so nervous, Ron. And he never called me back to DJ.
Oh, no way.
So I was kind of like, that didn't go well at all.
Yeah.
This ain't for me.
Yeah.
This ain't for me. DJing Colin Dale, leave it to Colin Dale.
Yeah.
I'll still try and be a singer or a musician or something like that. So anyway, that happened and we were still going down the club. And then the big break came, the sliding doors moment.
Yeah.
Again, it had something to do with Colin Dale. There was a new station, which was a local station by an entrepreneur, black guy that we knew called Mendoza.
I remember Mendoza. He done a record label as well.
Yeah, he used to have a record label, right?
Yeah.
Same guy. He brought out a couple of tunes, bad boy tunes, right? In the early jungle days.
Anyway, I remember him personally.
Right, yeah. He used to have a...
But I didn't know he had a record station. I didn't know he even had a radio station.
Yeah.
Let alone that you met him.
Yeah, he used to own a VW garage.
Okay.
And made quite a lot of money out of mending cars and stuff like that. He decided to set up a pirate station because he loved music. He was a real aficionado, really knew his reggae and early soul, 60s, early 70s stuff. And he had this brainwave to set up a station with local guys that were that had talent, but never had an outlet to play music. And he just was reaching out to everyone in the community.
That's real nice.
Look, I've got a radio station.
Yeah, I love that.
You have 2 tune.
Yeah,
you got record. Just come down and spin 2 tune. And that's what the whole ethos was. It was just like, come down and play a few tunes. Anyway, he signed Colin up to it. And at the same time, Kiss FM started. So Colin phoned me up and he was like, Fitz, I got this dilemma. Kiss FM started and boy, Gordon Mack and those guys have got some big DJs like Charles Peterson, Nicky Holloway, all of those guys. But I don't want to let Mendoza down. He said, please go and do a little ting.
By Mendoza.
By Mendoza.
Yeah.
And I live around the corner. I literally live around the corner. He said, please go and cover me. So I was like, all right, Colin. Again, so it's another moment where I've saved his bacon.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
So Mendoza rang me. He was like, yeah, look, you got records. I said, I've got nothing to carry in. I've got my mum's washing bag.
The stripe one.
That laundry bag where she's
one. Is it
the stripe ones?
Yeah, the stripe one.
The stripe ones, right? I got my mum's laundry bag. I put the records in there and I walked down. It was literally about half a mile. Walked into the station, walked upstairs, and I saw Mendoza and he was like, you know what? Good for you got here. You got 5 minutes.
Yeah. I
was like, right, cool. He said, you know what you're going to play? I said, yeah. I've got a good idea. And he said, right, this is the nighttime shift. You're going to be here from 11 till probably morning.
Yeah.
You cool with that? And I said, yeah. And he said, you know, the maddest thing was, he was like, this is the phone. And you start getting phone calls. You know, man used to get phone calls. Yeah. That's when you used to know whether you were
popping or not.
Right? So I was like, yeah, all right. And so I was just about to go, and he went, 1 minute. He said, what's your name? He said, you're going to call yourself Fitzroy? He said, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. That it's quite hard to say. Break it down and make it sound easier. And long story short, I was kind of seeing an Italian girl at the time.
Yeah. And
she used to, I mean, I was going out with her for about 3 weeks. She's talking about babies. I was like, I'm going to have to get rid of you. But she said, oh, yes, I love the name Fabio.
Yeah.
And I was why are you saying this to me? But I thought that name is bad.
Because she's saying that for the baby.
That's, yeah. We have a boy, we called it Fabio. And I was like, yeah, I like that name.
You know, the funny thing is, I think, boy, it hasn't been that long that I didn't think your real name was Fabio all along.
Really?
I'm telling you now.
It's only
until Facebook came back. I think, and even I was late on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
I was late on Facebook,
my
and then I was like, all right,
yeah,
okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was a good name.
Yeah,
so go on.
It was very unusual.
Yeah.
So I said to him, he went, right, they said to him, put the mic up now. Like, what's your name? I said, Fabio.
Yeah.
He said, nah, man, you can't call yourself. What kind of name is that?
Yeah.
He said, no, that's even worse. He said, call yourself Fitzroy. He said, you know what? Call yourself Pablo, after Augustus Pablo.
Yeah.
Pablo sounds more black than Fabio.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah. Cool, I like that. I like Pablo.
Pablo. What is it, Pablo who?
Augustus Pablo was
because you got Pablo Gad as well.
Yeah, Pablo Gad as well. He was kind of going, there's 2 roots, man, called Pablo. That's you, Pablo Gad. Hard times, isn't
Hard times, yeah.
So I got on the mic and I completely, everything felt like I just got really kind of like, you know when you want to dig a hole?
Yeah.
Because the record was running out and he was like, get behind the mic.
Yeah.
And I picked up the mic and I went, it's DJ Fabio. And he went,
oh, you said the wrong name.
I told you not to say. And I said, oh, yeah, all right, I'm going to call myself Pablo. He said, no.
It's too late now.
I said, you can't. And I said, he said, no. He said, just leave it as Fabio. Yeah. Just leave it.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. If I'd have remembered, my name would have been Pablo now. GrooveRider.
And you know what?
It don't sound too bad.
No, it don't sound right, Fab.
No.
Pablo, hold on.
Pablo and GrooveRider.
Pablo and GrooveRider.
No, it don't.
No way.
It don't roll off the tongue.
It don't roll off the tongue.
It don't roll off the tongue.
Introducing Pablo and Groove.
So it probably never happened. Groove probably was, but there's no synergy here.
No, there's no synergy.
The synergy's not right. Pablo and GrooveRider.
You made a good mistake. Right. You know, sometimes when you make a mistake and it's the right thing.
It was meant to be.
The universe had your back.
The universe had my back, and then
because that fit. That I mean, it could have worked at Rage. Because Pablo is a Spanish name, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe.
It's kind of Spanish and
it's got that Latin kind of
it's got a little vibe. Latin kind of vibe.
You know what I'm
saying?
You
know what I mean? You know,
so that moment was a big moment for me because I ended up playing till 6 o'clock in the morning. Mendoza rang me the next day, said, you got the drive time show. I'm going to give you the show. You come and do the thing every day. And that was my life for a couple of years. I'd done radio on Phase 1 every day. I done the little DJ thing. Really taught me so much about everything. Do you know what I'm saying?
What's really interesting there is your trajectory. Therefore, started from radio. I've not heard that before.
Radio started everything.
Because everybody, when I speak to them, it's always by virtue. I mean, depending on their age group, which predominantly is our age group-ish, is always through sound system. It's always through some sort of like sound system.
That's course.
Trajectory, and then from there to something.
Yeah.
But yours was like straight in the deep end radio.
It was radio.
And great job and testament to, and big up, I should say, Mendoza for that vision of starting a pirate radio station from scratch.
From scratch.
He never took it from somebody and made it into something. He went, I've got a great idea. Why don't I do this? Which and
it cost him a lot of money.
Yeah, he
lost a lot of money because the aerials kept getting taken down, the DTI.
Yeah.
I
never knew that about him.
For real. And he literally nearly blew everything.
Mendoza Records, that's what it was called.
Mendoza Records.
That's what it was called, yeah.
So then Mendoza was also the link to, he used to have a little shebeen, a little nightclub.
Okay.
Called Mendoza's.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's right opposite Hootenanny, actually.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, you wouldn't remember it because it was just a local dive.
Yeah.
It was a local dive. The local guys used to go down, small little club, 90 people.
Yeah.
We used to go in there on a Saturday night. We was broke. We didn't have no money. It was a local thing. We used to get cheap drinks down there. Yeah. Me, Colin, and a few friends used to go down there every single week. And then I cut a long story short, Groove was on the station as well.
Yes.
Groove was on the station. Groove used to play jazz.
Yeah. So you two are on the same station.
But we didn't know each other.
But you didn't know each other at that time. Yeah. Okay.
I was on in daytime. Groove was on 12 till 2, playing like acid jazz and kind of jazz.
Because I'll tell you this, like I said to you earlier, I've known you and Groove for over 30 years, and I don't know how you met.
Yeah.
Don't know how you met. So
right.
Let's get into that.
Right. So Mendoza had a brother called Chris, who was really on the cusp of the whole acid house wave. And he knew all the guys. And we didn't know nothing about acid house, but I started buying acid house. I remember going to Red Records the same day, Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim came out.
Yeah.
I bought Mysteries of Love by Fingers Inc.
Yes.
And the guy in the shop went, listen to this. And I was like, what's this? He went, it's a house tune. I went, what's that?
Yeah.
He said, just listen to it. Just tell me what you think.
So at that time, you were buying quite an eclectic mix of music.
I was
anyway.
buying lots of weird.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have played that to you.
No,
he must have known that.
He knew.
He knew that you could be.
I'm open-minded, so
exactly.
Tell me what you think of it. That's what was. He weren't like you're gonna like this. Tell me what you think. Because I was in there buying rare grooves. I was buying funk. I was buying everything, Ron. So I buying a bit of reggae, a bit of dub. If I saw some old Scientist albums, I'd be buying them. He said, tell me what you think of it. And I weren't interested. I was interested in Paid in Full because I was an Eric B. and Rakim man.
Of course, yeah.
And I got home and was playing Eric B. and Rakim, the album. And I was just like, damn, this album is, because it was so dope.
Yeah.
This album's dope. And then I thought, what about this other tune here?
Yeah.
That my man did give me. Let me see what it is. And it was on DJ International, the white label with the... And I had doom, 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 doom. I was like, it's a bit like disco. It sounds a little bit like disco, but it ain't disco. Yeah. It sounds really black though as well. Do you know what I mean? And it just had this vibe. And I was like, I like this.
Yeah.
So I went back the next day, bought the Fingers Inc. album. I bought a few other things. So we had a few tunes. I had a few tunes. And I remember at the end of the Groove show, he used to play a few acid house tunes.
So he was playing straight up jazz?
Straight up jazz, like jazz funk and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Mendoza was kind of like, he called me up. I was kind of like, look, my brother said there's a night going on in the West End. This was a Monday night called Spectrum.
Go on, carry
with
on.
Paul Oakenfold.
Okay.
And he said that afterwards, people are looking for somewhere to go, and he's going to navigate everyone to Mendoza's. Now, Mendoza's was in Brixton. Brixton at the time was in the Thatcher era of being, there was 2-3 riots already. Nobody came to Brixton.
Yes.
Nobody partied in Brixton.
Mm-hmm.
Brixton, we saw all the man from the hood in there.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
No one took that chance to
Yeah,
come
yeah,
to Brixton.
yeah.
We went in the club on a Saturday night. There used to be us and 20 bad men in there, and that's it.
Yeah.
Girls used to walk in and walk straight out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
we were kind of like, Mendoza, bruv, no one ain't come to this place. No one ain't, are you mad? You really think the man's going to come all the way from West End and come Brixton? Anyway, just give it a go. My brother said he's going to drag people down there. So he said, GrooveRider's coming. And I was like, okay. Because he's got 2 little house tune as well. So I was kind of like, yeah, cool. I don't really know Groove, but we can make it work. So I walked again, had my little basket, walked up to the club, walked in there. Groove was already there. And he was kind of like, what's going on here? And I was like, I don't know, man. He reckons there's going to be people in there. There ain't going to be no one in there.
I think I heard Groove tell this story before,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I think it might have... Carry on.
He said there ain't going to be no one in there. And he's just looking at the time. He's like, look, I've got to leave at 1 because I've got to go work.
I did hear this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on.
He said, I've got to go work.
Yeah.
I've got to go work in the morning. Because he used to work at St. George's as a computer
analyst. Guy, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
analyst, programmer.
Programmer, right.
From them days.
Yeah.
He was deep in that thing. You got to remember all that. It was code and all that. He knew all that.
Right, okay.
And it was a serious job. So he was like, I'm going to have to leave. Playing music. 1 o'clock come. Not one person in the dance. Mendoza was like, Groove, look, the dance finishes at a certain time. Please stay. He's like, look, I've got to go work. I can't stay no longer. He said, you know what, I'm going to stay another hour. Just give us 2 little drinks, and we were there. But then we were playing the house music, and it was nice.
Yeah.
Not one person in there.
Yeah.
Nobody. Monday night, freezing cold. Nobody in there. Grooves went, I'm going. I can't do this. Like, you really think people are going to come here? He went, I'll drop you home. Where you live? I said, round the corner. He said, I'm going to drop you home. Got in the car. He said, what a waste of time. I said, I don't know. What was he thinking? Like, no one comes here on a Saturday night. Like, what did he think really people are going to come down there? As Groove put up the engine, we saw 2, like, skinheads walking down the elevator. And it was like, rah, what's this man doing? And I was going, let's go mental. Let's go mental. I was like, Groove was like, what's wrong with this? This is Monday night, 3 o'clock in the morning. We've never seen this before. They were like, so Groove was like, because driving off, they stopped the car.
Yeah.
They came around and went, who are you 2? It was like, with DJs. They went, where are you going? We're going. There's nobody in there. He went, listen, there's going to be about 300 people in here in about 10 minutes. Everyone's coming.
Yeah.
He went, get back in and DJ.
Yeah.
So we got back in. Groove looked at me and went, what do you think? I said, come on, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Got in there now, playing the tutors. I see one of the men put his head in the speaker.
Yeah.
Going mad. And we were just laughing. But it was like, we're getting a reaction. This is cool. Ron, within 30 minutes, the club was jam. We were, at this time, Mendoza, it was a little bit of a skinflint. He was a little bit of a...
Yeah.
He's selling drinks at the
craziest
fastest rate he's ever.
Yeah.
He was breaking records in there.
Yeah.
He was breaking records, and
yeah.
he was just like, "Don't go home." Groove's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna go straight to work. Go straight to work." Ron, we ended up playing till 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Groove lost his job.
No way.
Lost his job with people going home, bringing their kids to school, coming back. Bruv, we played till 12,
I'm sure
1 o'clock.
you told me this story at the last rehearsals.
I told you the story at the last rehearsals.
Yeah, it was either you or... Yes, I'm sure.
It might have been... It was either me or Groove.
Yeah. Vaguely remember.
Yeah. So that moment was
the thing.
That was the big thing.
And so from that moment, you always played together.
So what happened, Mendoza was kind of like, look, there's nights happening every night. So you lot take the door. You lot split the money. You lot take the door. I'll take the bar. And bruv, we just started to run a business.
Right.
We were there every night, Ron, because every night there was an acid house thing. This guy, Chris, was always bringing people down there. In the end, it became all local folk came down there.
The same Mendoza's thing in Brixton?
The same thing in Brixton.
Really?
It became just little, but people loved it.
Wow.
Because it was this little hole, you know what I mean?
I did not know that. That is like,
hundreds
that's a
of
serious
people
piece
outside.
of history there.
Groove went and bought a Ford Capri so we could go out and do flyers.
Yeah.
Bought this little Ford Capri for £70.
No
We
way.
would go out flying in the West End.
Goes to show. That goes to show.
That was it. That was the start of the whole thing.
That's a very, very, very early and significant
very significant moment.
You know?
Really significant moment, man.
Because I never heard that story before.
Yeah.
I never heard that part of it.
Yeah.
And how it continued. Yeah, I only heard up until, and that happened and Groove did it, and he would have done the coding and da-da-da. But I never heard the bit that it continued.
Right.
And Paul Walkenfold and everybody kept on coming there.
Down.
That is a big deal.
And that's also what we started to gain this reputation that these guys from Brixton, from this little club.
Has to be, yeah.
You know, that's how we started.
I never heard that story before in my life.
That's how then we started to gain this following.
Yeah.
And that's when the acid house explosion happened.
So that has to be about 1987, 88.
This 87.
87, yeah, I was going to say. Had to be.
And then that was the moment when we started to gain a name for ourselves.
From that Brixton club?
That Brixton club. It was jam every week. Then we started to do this other little thing called Barretton Road. And then we got all the... When the acid house scene started, you got to remember there weren't that many people that played it. We also knew one of the guys that used to come down Mendoza's was one of the main ticket sellers for all the acid house parties, and he lived around the corner from me. So what happened, he used to sell the tickets and he used to go, there's these two guys called Fabio and GrooveRider. They're bad. They got a following, book them, cheap.
Yeah.
It was £25, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And then, so he hooked us up with Tony Colstonator from Sunrise.
Yeah, of course.
Tintin from Energy.
Yeah.
And then Jarvis from Biology.
And
Tarquin from Weekend World.
Yeah.
We got the hook up because of Dave.
Yeah.
Dave was the main man.
Right, but he was the main ticket seller for them. And by virtue of that, you were on the key contenders for acid house raves at that time.
Because he was kind of like, they've got this massive following down in Brixton.
Wow, that is a serious piece of history there.
Yeah, man, that's a serious thing. It was a serious thing.
Because I never heard that story before in my life, and I've been around.
Yeah, you've been around.
I heard a lot of stories. And I never heard that story before.
Yeah.
Wow. Mendoza, you know.
Mendoza. He had faith.
Yeah, he had faith.
You know what the great thing was? He had faith in all of us as DJs. Because we weren't DJs before. We didn't have names.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a DJ name. Yeah, man, Mendoza had faith in us. He had a lot of faith in you know what he was trying to do? He was trying to get young black kids that he thought were musically talented to come and do their thing. Because DJing wasn't a kind of aspiration at that time, you know. So he had foresight to really sit down and think, we're going to try and do this thing. And you know what? I'm grateful for that guy, I'm grateful because he really did put that feeling that, you know, you had talent. I mean, I never felt like DJing was never anything I wanted to do. So he instilled into me that you're a DJ, bruv. I'm going to give you a slot, do your thing.
Yeah.
And that started I started to navigate towards, okay, this is me.
That's interesting because you consider that story and all that sort of like trajectory up until, you know, with all the ticket sellers giving you the blighs, you know, like Mendoza putting you on the platform. Are you still operating at this time as just Fabio and Groove is operating as Groove?
Kind of. The Fabio and GrooveRider thing hadn't been cemented yet.
Yeah.
Because we were just winging it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a thing like, you know, Groove always used to say to me, 6 months' time, bruv, you're going to have to get a day job because this ain't going to be around.
Right, okay.
So we never sat down and thought about anything longer than the next week or the next gig.
Okay.
Because it was a hobby.
Yeah, I understand.
It was a hobby.
But like, surely, I mean, you know, like, certainly for me, I was the same. And I think maybe, I don't know, I've never asked anybody the question. It's the first time I'm hearing it from somebody who is considering it. there surely must have been a moment when it was like, I might be onto something here. Do you know what I mean? But let's not go straight to that just yet, because I'm trying to get to where you and Groove therefore started to kind of form this sort of like union that we all know today.
Because, you know, even when the Acid House started when we started doing the gigs, we still weren't Fabio and GrooveRider, really, because Groove did biology. I never did biology that much.
Okay, yeah.
Groove was the golden child for biology.
Right, okay.
I was more sunrise and energy, and you've got to remember there was a little disparity between
the two brands,
between the brands. You know,
Yeah.
there wasn't no hatred, but it was competitive.
It was healthy competition. Yeah, healthy competition.
And Groove was kind of weekend world biology. I was sunrise and energy.
Yeah, that's interesting, you know, because I mean, again, this is a testament to how my own brain mixes up history, yeah? To me, I get this sense that around that same time was when Rage was.
No, it weren't.
There you go.
No, it weren't.
There you go.
Because I'll tell you what happened, because, you know, the Acid House thing was monumental in our lives, because it really was. We were young.
Of course we were,
young men.
We were in our 20s, early 20s.
Yeah, we were young men.
Yeah.
So we were excited. I mean, you know, that feeling of you ain't got kids, you ain't got a house.
Yeah.
So there's that I don't really give a shit kind of vibe going on. But then what happened with Acid House, even though it was a glorious time, what happened was the criminal justice bill came along.
Yeah.
You know, then all of a sudden we were hearing that we could get arrested. We'd get all our music confiscated. That was a big deal. That's like someone coming into you and going, basically, we're taking your job.
Yeah.
We're taking your job away. You know, you're fired, bruv. And so we started to be a lot more cautious about the gigs we were doing.
That's interesting.
And then there was just a feeling that it was winding down now. You know, I remember, I think it was Biology or Weekend World where we were playing, and then we looked and we saw helicopters everywhere. And then we saw squad cars and everyone had to run. We were running through bushes with our record boxes, tripping over in the mud.
Oh my God.
And then I thought, I can't.
No, I never experienced that, but I could imagine if you had to do that, that would have made you worried if you had to go to another field and play.
And we were just thinking out, you know, if we get our records taken away, bro, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So there was this point that came along, the criminal justice bill happened. There was a big outrage about it. You know, there was a massive thing in Trafalgar Square.
That was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Because everyone thought
a lot of people got hurt there as well. Yeah.
A lot of people got hurt there. So a lot of people thought, well, our civil rights are getting taken away.
Yeah.
But the government, Thatcher's government, were looking at it. These kids are being brainwashed. They're taking drugs. This new hypnotic, monotonous music. They wanted to shut that down, Ron.
Yeah, they did. Of course they did.
So the next logical phase for us, when that finished, was it's done. It's over now. But then the promoters were very savvy, and they were making money, Ron. So they were like,
I got to keep this going.
We got to go legal now. We're going to have to go legal. We're going to have to go into the nightclubs, and we're going to have to keep pushing this thing on, because it's a movement now, Ron. It had a uniform, it had a cultural style,
and people were living. You said it earlier when you said it. You touched on it when you said people were like in their 20s and didn't have this and didn't have that. But actually, my memory of it was that you would live weekend to weekend. You'd run one weekend out. So you finish a weekend, you'd be talking about that weekend you had up until Wednesday. Then by Wednesday, you're talking about the weekend that you're going to. And you lived it like that. Now, I remember where I worked at the time when this was all happening, and I was like, it was just like, this was the youth culture of this entire country.
Absolutely.
It
became that thing that people that weren't even into it at the beginning were kind of like, you know, I think Jack Your Body went to #1. It just became a phenomena. And so the idea was to move it into nightclubs. So I think Legends in Old Burlington Street, there was a big night there. There was a WAG Club in Wardour Street, had a big night on a Friday, I think, Astoria.
Astoria was a big one. Yeah, that was a big one.
It became a thing. So me and Groove was kind of like, okay, we're going to have to go with the flow. We need to follow this, whatever happens now. So then there was this club called Rage.
Heaven.
At Heavens. And Rage was a real... Rage was trying to be kind of like Zanzibar I think Zanzibar was in New York. Tried to do the whole New York house thing, where it wasn't what we were doing. It was more Chicago, more vocal based, more soulful, and that was running at the time. And Rage was a big deal. And then they had Colin Favor and Trevor Funk playing in there. And Trevor and Colin would kind of mix it up a little bit, but it was still very purist. It was very purist. It was very kind of deep, and we used to go Rage, and like it was kind of like a big thing for us to if we ever played in here. You know, you go to clubs and you sit down and think, boy, you know what? I'd love to play in this spot. So funny enough, there was a girl we knew called Debbie, who knew management at Rage. We didn't even know she knew. She was just used to come to the after parties, and we knew her through that. And one day, we were doing a gig, and she came up to me and she went, Fab, there's a little chance you lot could play in Rage, you know. I was like, shut up. What are you talking about? Because I didn't even know this girl knew anybody. So I just thought, you know, back in the day as well, people used to gas a lot, Ron. People used to just chat.
I know this, man.
Chat, beer, fart. You know what I mean? I know this. I can hook you up with this. So we just thought
buzzing off of their head.
You know what I'm saying? Like buzzing off their heads, talking beer rubbish. So I didn't even really take any notice of it. And she said, can I take your number? And I said, yeah, take my number. She took Groove's number as well. And I didn't think anything of it, Ron. And then one day she called me and she went, Kevin Millins, who runs Rage, is going to call you guys. I was like, is this girl, she can't be pushing this lie this far.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
This has got to be...
This is real by now.
This has got to have some substance to it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, 2-2s now, Kevin rang us, asked us to come down, and so upstairs in Rage was this tiny, it weren't tiny little room. It was about 300-400 people. But it was a second room. It was a second room. It didn't touch the surface of what was going on downstairs. It was like a room 2. It's a room 2. If you want to walk around and check out something else, and he was like, look, you know, Debbie's told us about you guys, and we'd love to try it out and see if it works in room 2. So we went up there and we was like, wow. It was room 2. But then I think with me and Groove, we had a following by then. We had a staunch following. And we just thought, if we go in room 2, we're going to murk this place, you know. We're going to murk it in there. And we knew we were going to murk it. And bruv, after about 3 weeks in room 2, when we got to the club, we used to have to push through hundreds of people on the stairs trying to get into that room. And we started to own that place. We owned it in there. Used to go off in there, Ron. And what we were doing, we were playing a real alternative to what was happening downstairs. We were playing rhythm tracks. We weren't playing vocals. It was kind of like techie. It was more ravey, what we were doing.
Yeah, I remember it well.
It was more ravey, even though it wasn't jungle, but there was still things like Meat Beat Manifesto, Radio Babylon and tunes like that.
But there's this thing, you say it wasn't jungle because you're speaking about the music. It wasn't jungle music. But I'm a strong believer, and I've always said it, I believe the culture of jungle started first. And somebody called it a name later. Do you get what I mean? Because down there, with my first introduction to Rage, when I went there, the man them was already there, and the girl them was already there. And this mix of the hood and Kensington and Knightsbridge and Primrose Hill was already in the spot. And I was like, this was my favourite club in the world. End of story. And not only that, it was a good time in so we come off the back of Soul to Soul, come off the back of Rebel MC, come off the back of people dating, like this dating thing going on, like this inter-class dating. And it was this melange that had spread now, not just from the acid scene, and it seemed to me that this was happening in Rage. It might have been happening in other places, but it was certainly happening in there. Do you know what I mean?
It was happening in there more than anywhere else.
I think so.
Because what was happening, you was getting the tail end of what was going on downstairs, which was a little bit bougie. So you had the it girls of the day, Emma Ridley, Amanda de Cadenet, all of them kind of rich girls. There was a real thing about these Kensington girls that were becoming it girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember it well. Yeah.
They were the original kind of. It was like the original Kardashians. Do you know what I mean? They were hot. They had money. They were kind of out there doing their thing. They were wild. They were wild party girls, and they were coming to Rage. And then you had the man them, because I used to see man in Brixton. From Brixton there.
and man from Hackney and Tottenham.
Man from Hackney and
Tottenham.
Tottenham.
So if you've got man from Brixton, Hackney and Tottenham in that party, and this is why I still believe it was probably that was the breeding ground of what I believe was the jungle scene, the culture of jungle scene.
No, for sure. Because you had the Brixton, and I know some real proper villains from North London that was in there.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, what? These
and they were having an amazing time.
Having the most amazing time. Yeah. So you had this kind of melting pot of classes.
Yeah.
So that, this was the class system breaking down as well. Do you know what I mean? Because you literally had ghetto man in there, and you had girls in there that their fathers were worth 200 million. Do you know what I'm saying? So this mad thing was going, this mad synergy was going on. So, but downstairs was very tame at the time. It's very nice and, quite bougie, like a big West End spot. But our thing upstairs was becoming, so we started to see some of them it girls come upstairs now, like this is the real vibe going on in here.
Edgy.
You know what I mean? It was edgy. Do you know what I mean? It was like all these kind of working class people having it in a different way. You know what I mean? Horns blowing, man licking wood, and it was a different thing. Because it was it was kind of like the ghetto culture was being brought into this kind of environment. So it was going off in there, Ron. And then one day, Kevin came up to us, Kevin Millings, the owner, and he said, look, Trevor, Fung and Colin Dale, they've got this gig in LA. Is there any way you guys can fit in for them downstairs? And we was like, what, for real? They said, yeah, just for 1 week only. They'll be back next week. And I remember saying to him, well, do you want us to play a little bit more? And he's like, no. Just do what you're doing in there, just do it downstairs. So, bruv, we murdered it in there. Murdered it. The one, that they say, we got one chance.
Yeah.
And we took it.
And what a place to take it as well.
We took it in there, Ron. And afterwards, Kevin came running upstairs and he went, you got the gig.
Do you know what? I'm quite certain I wasn't around when you were up in room 2.
You probably weren't.
No, I went around when you were in room 2.
That was very early times.
Yeah, I was around when
it was popping downstairs.
When it was downstairs, and then we were going to this place, and I remember we were going there because Maria Whittaker was going there, and Rebel was dating her at the time. Do you know what I mean? And so we were kind of like, she was another it girl. Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
And by the time I'd already got there, the place was heaving.
Yeah, heaving.
I mean?
By that time, it was set.
Yeah, it was heaving.
But we got it going from the start.
Yeah.
From the very start, it was just popping.
Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't see no growing or
no.
You
came and you thought this. This is
how it is.
This is it. But it wasn't originally.
Yeah.
He came up to us and said, "Look, you know what, you guys, we want you to do it. We want you to do a residency down there." And do you know what? We felt a bit of a way because Trevor and Colin were our idols. Trevor Fung and Colin.
So they never came back? They never came back.
Well, they put them upstairs, man.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Why am I laughing?
Can you
Sorry about
imagine
that.
though, man,
Sorry
come back
about
from
that.
LA
Oh no.
and they're big. You got to remember they're established DJs.
Of course I know.
They're established DJs. A man come back from LA and you
So
heard,
you lot are back in. You're in the room
bro,
too. You know,
we
bro.
did that, and you know, because we had mad respect for him. Honestly, me and Groove at one stage were like, should we do this? Because upstairs is nice, you know.
Yeah.
And then we sat down and thought, this is a chance.
Bro, that was a landmark decision.
Come on, man. You know,
That was a landmark
we
decision.
can't turn this down. So, you know, Rage was going for many years, and you know, it was such an amazing experience for us because that's when Fabio and GrooveRider became Fabio.
That Fabio and GrooveRider.
Really,
yeah.
Because even to this day, Ron, we still, you know, there's also separate entities because Groove's does his own gigs and I do my own gigs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which is still quite bizarre, really.
Yeah. However, that was cemented then, and it's just stuck in history now.
It's just stuck in history now.
Yeah, it's just stuck in history.
So that was a real moment.
Yeah.
And Rage was incredible up to this day. It's still burned into my brain. Very vivid
For those
memories.
who were there in that context, it'd be the same.
Incredible. You know, Goldie used to come down there with Kemi.
Yeah.
And well, you know, the thing is, it was so many people found their way from Rage.
Yeah.
You know
Eventually they did. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Eventually they did.
Found themselves
Then
down
we had,
there,
you know, the Detroit boys, Kevin Saunders and Derek May.
Yeah.
Them guys who was kind of like gods to us, come down. They used to give us dub plates.
Yeah.
And, you know, gave us Mentasm on dub and Energy Flash and Joey Beltram come down there. MK,
Madness.
Mark Kinchin,
Madness.
all of them guys, they all come down there, man. And it was just a madness.
Yeah.
But then, you know, like everything, what happened in Rage, then the It Girls and that started to disappear a little bit, and they started to go more in the kind of Crazy Larry's kind of circuit.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, then you just had the gangsters in there. Yeah. The gangsters were in there, and it became a little bit too much of a hotspot.
Yeah, a little bit too one-sided.
Too edgy.
Yeah.
Too edgy. Yeah. We loved the edgy element, but it became a little bit on top in there. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, what's interesting, not to divert from the Fabio story, but what's interesting just around that time was like the memory of some other little spots where that same nucleus that was Rage were going to. Haven Stables.
Yeah.
There was another one, Ealing Boulevard.
Yeah.
You know, like these little kind of like places where there was this pocket of people that went to the same places all the time.
Yeah.
And to me, again, you know what I mean, this was the very early stages of jungle. But anyway, so we leave Rage, you know what I mean, and we're doing Rage, and you know what I mean, you cement yourself in that world, right? What happens next?
So then again, me and Groove have come to another crossroads.
Yeah.
In our career, we're a little bit like lost now. We're a bit like, what do we do? But we're still working loads. But we were very used to doing residencies, because residencies was a big thing, Ron. Because you made your mark, not like nowadays where you make your mark in social media and having followers. You made your mark then by having a residency.
And have those people go away and say, they smashed it.
And then you draw them into your world.
Exactly.
You draw them into your world, and that's what happened with AWOL. You know what I mean? The birth of Randall. DJ Randall. That's where he came. Randall was DJing from 88, 89. I remember hearing Randall on Centreforce playing Acid House.
Yeah, you're right.
But the cementing, the making of Randall
was
AWOL.
Yeah.
Because that every week you could come and hear this guy play.
And you go, I'm gonna go there. Yeah, big up the other man then, but I
I'm gonna go there to listen to Randall.
I want to go there to listen to
Right,
Randall.
you know. So that became we needed another residency, and then Speed happened. Speed came along.
That's an interesting one, you know, because Speed came along at a time when there was change happening. Do you know what I mean? And that change, I mean, testament to change. You know what I mean? You know, you can't stop it. It's just like a train going at 1,000 miles an hour. Do you know what I mean? And people were making different types of music while the jungle was seen as a youth culture was now, without any doubt, nationwide and also now international. So for me, unlike now, you know what I mean, somebody comes up with a new genre of music, you know what I mean, and whatever, I think it would be very difficult to enter this place because it's already formed itself, yeah? But when speed came, it took what was the jungle, and in my opinion, and it kind of stripped it down to like, it's more musical elements, it's more sort of like more delicate elements then, you know what I mean? That's a personal view. But you tell me your kind of like take on that whole, not just the club, but the music, which at the time, for some who don't know, they were calling it intelligent music. That's right.
So what was going on, you know, when jungle, happy hardcore was starting to become a real thing. So when you did Sanctuary, even Eclipse, early Eclipse was quite happy hardcore-ish. And I liked some of the music and some of it I really didn't like.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting
yeah,
it.
exactly. Right, I'm being really diplomatic now.
Yeah.
But I was like, musically, I'm gonna have to move on from this because it ate me.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been quite musical in what I like from back in the day, from soul music. And there was you know this, at the end of the day, there were soulful tracks. Even in the jungle, I was tending to go more towards the more melodic, like even what Euphony was doing with Just For You London. You know, I was more into I weren't a mad fan of the ragga stuff. Even though I played it, that was the territory of, that was Mickey. Mickey owned the ragga stuff, do you know what I'm saying? So I always wanted to find my niche. I didn't ever want to follow anybody in what anyone was doing. So there was few soulful things about. And then Bookham was about as well. And I'll never forget this. We did Paradise Club. It wasn't AWOL. It was just a night at Paradise on a Saturday night, Ram in there. I can't remember who was playing. I think Devious D, a lot of them guys were playing in there. And me and Bookham was on from 3:30 till the end. And Ron, I'm not joking, within an hour, it was like someone walked into the middle of the dance floor and went, fire! There was nobody in there.
Right, yeah.
And we were playing this beautiful music that we loved.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I think they closed it at 5. And Bookham was like, what are we going to do about this? Because he was going, you played so many tunes. And I was like, you played so many tunes. So what can we do? Like, because people ain't getting it. They're not getting what we're doing at all. They want to hear harder stuff and it's just not happening. So then Bookham, then a guy from Mercury Records called Leo, who was one of the big guys at Mercury, was a real fan. And he came up to us he came up to Sarah Sandy, who was running Groove Connection at the time. He came up to me and Bookham, and he came up with this idea that we're going to do Mars, which was owned by Nicky Holloway, who was this big house guy. Yeah, cool. And it was in Leicester Square. No, it was in Trafalgar Square. And we're going to do this. And it was a bougie spot. Danny Rampling used to do Shum there.
Yeah.
It was a house club.
Yeah.
It was a house night, but very upmarket. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. He went, it would work in there. You know, jungle per se won't. Yeah. But this take on jungle will. So I was like, all right, I'm up for it. And so we went and met the management, and they were a little bit para. The whole jungle stigma, is man gonna come in here and start shooting up the place? It was like, no, it ain't gonna be like that. It's gonna be, we're just trying to think. There's no night like this anywhere. We done it on a Monday night. There was absolutely nobody in there. There was like 5, 6 people in there. And me and Bookham playing, and right at the end, Leo said, like, what are we gonna do? Like, is this gonna work? And we said, look, let's change the night. Move it to a Thursday night. We'll do it on a Thursday and see. We'll do it for a month and see what happens. After a month, bruv, there was queues of 300-400 people outside. It just happened like that. And, you know, Bookham was playing his kind of cosmic take on everything, which is big strings. And, you know, I was coming with Alex Reese and that kind of stuff. And bro, it got to the stage where Arthur Baker, people like that, we saw Oasis were in there. David Bowie came down. Bjork, that's where Goldie met Bjork. It became the most trendy place in anywhere in London.
Do you know what? I don't think I ever went there, you know?
For real.
I don't think I ever went there, bro.
Maybe you didn't. But then you got to remember, right, so this is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't...
Where was it in Trafalgar Square?
It was in Charing Cross, opposite Astoria.
No, you're talking about downstairs.
Yeah.
No, was that the club?
Yeah.
What was it called
Mars.
later? Was it always called Mars?
It was always called Mars.
So basically, you're at. I was about to stand up now.
Yeah, you come outside Astoria, and literally opposite.
Yeah, you cross the road a little bit, and
there's a little downstairs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. So that's the club.
That was the club.
Yeah, of course I went there.
Yeah. It was called Mars, and it was all white inside.
Yeah, that's right.
It was all kind of white.
Billy was running that, wasn't he?
No,
yeah.
Billy
was later
on.
Managed
he was
involved
involved
in somehow or another. So it was the same club. I was a bit lost then because you said Trafalgar Square. And this was the most bougie. I'm like, so where the hell was I then? Yeah, but it's the same place. All right then.
So we were doing that in there, and it became a real spot. But then what was problematic was that a few of the jungle mans weren't really feeling it. And there was little whispers that there was like meetings, man was having meetings. Yeah, come on, you must.
No, but this is the funny thing about it is, I've done a few of these as you know, I've done a few of these interviews, and I keep hearing about these meetings. If it's not one meeting, it's another meeting. If it's not this meeting, it's another meeting. I wasn't at any of those meetings, but I like hearing about them, so fire away.
Weren't you at none of the meetings?
Which meetings?
I don't know who started this. I don't know if it was 5-0 or someone started this junglist kind of, and we were becoming the main...
Getting vilified.
We were getting vilified. Then man, just taking it to the West End. You know, like
I never heard none of that.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
As far as I recall from my memory, that what you lot were doing in that club, was it was like a breath of fresh air. Do you know what I mean? Because you'd go there, it'd be something different to what we all do, and then you go away and you do everything else.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Spoonie and them lot had the other club there. We turn up there just to do a bit of garage.
Absolutely.
Do you get what I mean? Because it was just something very different to what we do. We're going to do that, and then we're going to go off and do our thing. So this is interesting because, to me, the meetings, I've always heard historically that those meetings were more traditionally based around the metalheads era. But carry on, sorry.
No, it wasn't. It was just before.
Right, there you
go.
go.
And one of the main problems with the Alliance was that, first of all, we called it intelligent. So we were being disparaging. Like, what do you mean?
So we're unintelligent.
We're playing idiot music then, that was the thing. And we didn't even name... Mixmag called it intelligent.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Mixmag being Mixmag, sat down and thought, oh, yeah, this is intelligent, an intelligent take on the jungle.
Yeah.
And we didn't call it that. And then secondly, it was in the West End, and there weren't no jungle clubs in bougie West End clubs.
Not residents.
Not residents.
There were nights, but not residents.
Not residentially, you know what I mean? And then there was a feeling that we was taking it to the middle classes and leaving the working class.
This is interesting. I've never heard this before.
So it became like almost fever pitch.
Really?
That there was a big problem.
Right. Okay.
And I heard from someone that went to the meeting that it was a heated meeting. Like, what are we gonna do about these man? We're gonna have to put a stop to this because they're mashing apart. Yeah, bruv, it was deep. And I felt, you know what? I felt really alienated by that because we never wanted to do that. There was never any intention of doing that. And to think that people of the community of something that I was a part of building were then turning their back on what we were doing. And I'm just thinking, well, bro, look, this is just a different strain of the thing.
Yeah.
We're not trying to take it onto like, you know, to the middle class. And even if we were, what's the problem?
I think that at that time, it not sounds to me, I know for a fact, because it's like, you know, to many degree, I was part of the issue, is that not this issue specifically, but just part of the issue of being so protective and of something that we had created. And so any change would spur up ideas of like, what's going on? What's going on? Da, 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 da. But I didn't know that this happened to this degree.
Oh no, it was a real thing. It was real.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I think after a while, they realised that we were just doing our thing. And to be honest with you, the whole thing just fell apart, the whole Jungle Alliance thing.
So there was an actual Jungle Alliance?
Yeah, where man was going to meetings and sitting down. I'm not going to call man out, but there's certain man that I know that definitely went there.
You can tell me after.
Yeah, I'll tell you after. But they were 20 strong.
No way.
Yeah, mate, shouting down the place about the thing. Yeah. So I was really upset.
If you were at the meeting, you must feel away now.
I know, do you
innit?
know what I'm saying? If you was at the meeting, I'm calling you out. And you were wrong. But anyway, Speed carried on, and as I said,
that was how I knew it. Speed.
Yeah, Speed.
Yeah. So when you're saying Mars, I never knew the club name.
That's right.
I just knew Speed.
Absolutely. The
I
club
just
was
knew
called
Speed.
Mars.
Yeah.
But then, so that carried on for a couple of years, and that was amazing, amazing night. And then what happened? You know, with the Speed. Because that's one of the golden eras of music.
It was bruv, there was a lot of people.
Jeez,
you broke a lot of people down in that club.
Bruv, Pulp Fiction was played first in that place.
You
know
broke a lot of artists.
Yeah, Source Direct,
a lot of them.
Votech, Caliber, you know,
the boy
Wax
from up
Doctor,
top. The lot of them.
Wax Doctor, a lot of those guys.
Of them had somewhere.
Yeah, to just
that they can go, look, you know something, because it weren't going to be played where we were playing.
That's what I'm saying.
It weren't going to be played where
that was
there was nowhere else.
There was nowhere else.
So this is what I'm saying. I don't know where this meeting came about with all of this, because I was going down there to hear rhythm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And a lot of the man then were going down, you know, do you know what I mean? We were down there, we were having a whale of a time with bottles of Lauren Perry or Rosé.
Come on, man.
Do you get what I mean?
We was pimping in there,
We was
bruv.
pimping.
Pimping in there.
We was in your spot, fam.
Yeah, we was pimping in there.
That was like a bougie little place.
All it was it was an alternative to what was going on.
Yeah.
You got to remember as well, we were just coming out of the era where jungle got really nasty. And we're coming out of that era, you know, going over that place in Leicester Square. Oh, what is it called? Voodoo Magic.
But that wasn't a weekly.
No, it wasn't weekly.
Yeah.
But I remember going in there and it all kicking off really badly.
Yeah. I think that was the second one.
It was the second one.
Yeah, that was Rob Playford's party.
Rob Playford's party.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of kind of like oohing and ahhing about what was going on the scene. It was getting very violent. There was a lot of, you know, the initial gangs from Brixton and Tottenham and whatever. Then it became territorial. And they were kind of like,
which is such a shame, you know.
Patch.
It's such a shame, and I'll tell you why. I mean, not to go down that route because this is a story about your life, but I often say it's such a shame because that early time when we were at Rage, and now that time when I said like, you know, like those other little clubs and whatever, I remember all of these people being in there and having a great time together. So wherever that changed, I believe it must have changed on the street and they brought it into the clubs. But anyway,
that's probably what happened.
That's another story.
I would have thought so.
Yeah, because they were together.
Yeah.
What's happening? Yeah, sweet, nice one. There was none of it.
Yeah.
And somewhere it just went funny.
It just went wonky, man.
But yeah, okay, so Speed, and that's kind of like, for me, where, because like you said, you know what I mean, which is very interesting, there was a period of time where, you know, like you were vacant. You know what I mean? You know, like you weren't around as much. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then blink, and then boom, Speed turned up. Sorry,
happened.
I didn't remember it earlier because I didn't recognize it as Mars. I think I may have heard the name a few times, but I just always called the club and the event Speed.
But then you remember Abel stole our thunder as well. Abel came along and stole our thunder.
In what way?
Because Abel was Mickey, Gachet, Darren, Randall.
Yeah.
And that came and blew up. After Rage, it came and just blew up. And I remember everyone. I remember I played there once and it was incredible. And I'm going down there and seeing Randall doing his thing. And so there was a feeling that maybe our time had come and gone. And this new age of, you know, Gachet was blowing up then as well. This new age of the AWOL DJs were the future.
You know what? My history says it's slightly different. Do you know what I mean? My history says it's slightly different, and what do I mean by that? Because I think that a lot of when people speak of jungle, a lot of the time they speak about it as from the era of it being trouble onwards. Do you know what I mean? And for my reckoning, while AWOL was going on, there was still, and prior to AWOL, in fact, you know what I mean, there were jungle clubs that were even the precursor to them. And I think that that Roast at Linford Film Studios was definitely one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
And the reason I say that, and I'm going to put it down in history, and it is a fact, and whether you like it or lump it, the reality of it is that those bougie girls that were at Rage, I've got pictures with them at Linford Film Studios. They were there.
Oh yeah, they were there.
They were at Roast.
Oh yeah, they were.
And they were at Roast, and they followed that trend. They were never at AWOL.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So that thing that came from Rage, primarily before it went anywhere else, from Rage, and Groove was there.
Yeah.
And I was there. And there were a few others that were there. So that continuation happened. However it fell apart, I don't want it to go down in history as though it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? But to go from Rage to AWOL, I think it's unfair to not bridge that.
Yeah.
Bridge that with what was happening at Roast.
But then, you know, we can't, you know, I remember Roast being a real iconic. But I played at one of the first Roasts in Clark.
Of course you did. You were on the earliest
Road.
Yeah.
When it was on a Sunday.
When it was called Sunday Roast.
That's when it was called Sunday Roast. With me
in the afternoon. And that, in fact, was the model that AWOL then took and ran with.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, you know, there's that aspect of what was going on. You know, Speed came a little bit after that. Like anywhere, after a couple of years, we started to notice the crowds thinning out a little bit, and then we were the media darlings. So you'd look into Mix Mag, and they were talking, Speed. I think they voted it the best club in London, and you know, for drum and bass, jungle. That was unheard of.
Of course, yeah.
But then we'd opened up the eyes of the Mix Mag who'd earlier on been calling Prodigy, bonehead music. They'd embraced it. But then they started talking about something else. They started talking about a thing called Metalheads. Because you've got to remember, Metalheads was running synonymous to Rage. Metalheads was on a Sunday. We was on a Thursday. And Metalheads then took the music on to another level now. Metalheads took that whole kind of what we were doing, which was a departure from jungle, but they took it onto a much more anarchic level. What
year would you say the Rage era finished?
Rage finished about 93, end of 93.
I don't think Metalheads were around then.
No, it wasn't.
They weren't around.
Metalheads wasn't around then.
Bruno
We're talking about now, 95, 96.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
95, 96.
Yeah.
When Speed was kind of just maybe...
Oh, so you're saying from Speed to Metalheads,
from
right?
Speed
Not
to
Rage to
Metalheads.
Metalheads.
Not Rage to Metalheads.
From Speed to Metalheads, yeah, I'm with you.
You know, Speed then just started to die a death, and we was a bit like... And then Metalheads started. Which was Groove's house. That was GrooveRider's house. Do you know what I'm saying? And Speed was my thing.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, me and Groove, our careers run kind of like, really like that a lot of the time. And Metalheads just finished Speed because everyone went to Metalheads. Metalheads then, everyone was kind of like, what we were doing was passé. It was old hat. Everyone's into this dark, kind of futuristic, you know what I mean, kind of vibe that's going on at Metalheads. And I went down there, and as soon as I walked in, I got it. You know, Goldie was the star of the show. Goldie was then becoming a figure that was, you know, he was this beast. He was this kind of savage man. And he was this personality that we'd never really had in jungle drum and bass. We never had this outlandish.
Yeah, or somebody who was willing to go the extra mile.
Go the extra mile.
Who had
Go the extra mile.
The talent to go with it.
Had the talent to go with it. He had everything. He was this artist. He had the gold teeth. You know, he was a painter. So the media loved that. And he was outrageous as well. He was out there. He was a great talker as well.
Yeah, he was very articulate.
So he had everything. He had everything. So everyone was kind of like, Goldie was in ID magazine, Face magazine. And people got to understand these magazines were very important because youth culture really took notice of whatever they were saying. Whatever they were saying was fashionable, they would deal with it. Whatever films were cool, people would go and watch it. Whatever clubs were popping, people would take notice. So the Time Out, all these magazines started talking about Goldie, Metalheads, and he had this mad identity to it. He had the logo. And brother, I went down there one Sunday and I was just like, we're done. We can't compete with this, mate. We can't compete with it. It's a Sunday night. It finished at 12 o'clock. And when you came out, it felt like it was 6 o'clock in the morning.
Like you've really
because
been
you
to
were
a
so
rave,
bombarded in there with the music. Sonically, it was so aggressive and so, but at the same time, so clever. And what these guys were doing with the music was just amazing. And they were moving this shit on. Between jungle and what Metalheads were doing, there was a huge gap.
Yeah, I recently, not recently, maybe about a year or so ago, when they had Metalheads over at XOYO, yeah? When they had, Goldie had a residency.
Yeah, I remember,
over there,
yeah.
And I don't want to digress, but I just wanted to say this, and I told him this, and I said to him, you know what? After all of these years, yeah, it's one thing that I've recognised, is that what started at Metalheads is not what drum and bass continued into. It was different there.
Yeah.
It was still under control. It was still, it had its techie elements to it, and it was different to jungle, as you say. But it wasn't what those who were inspired by it went on to make. They went on to make the Frankenstein of what was that. Do you understand what I'm saying? In my opinion, which is fair play, because now it's technical. How technical can I be? And they went in without looking at actually what was the original thing. When you consider, and I'm not, God is my mate, I'm not saying this because of it, he's our friend. When you consider Timeless, that is not what people were making. They need to go back and have a listen to that. And then they would have gone, this is what it is. Because it still had soul. And it still had its kind of like roots in it. And it still had this. And it was still techie. That's just mine.
Yeah,
that's
but
DJ Ron's spin on it.
Timeless and Goldie and Metalheads, Timeless was a work of art.
Yeah.
And no one had ever made a work of art. Not like that. This was like a piece of work. This was like listening to Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. Or What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. This was our version of that. Because this had everything. It had soul, had passion, it sounded futuristic, it was clever, it was emotional. It was Goldie spilling out his whole life into this one album. And that just blew everybody away, man. And so this was another chapter in drum and bass. I was grateful. I played at Metalheads quite a lot as well. But it was Groove's manor. You walked in there, Groove owned that place, man. And so Metalheads was the next phase, and then Speed finished. But the thing is, with even with Speed and Metalheads, it was always Fabio and GrooveRider still. I had Speed, he had Metalheads.
I didn't really see Groove as Metalheads, but I definitely saw you as Speed all day long. And then didn't you move to another club eventually? Speed, didn't it go to another club?
Well, that became Swerve.
Swerve, right?
That became a little bit later.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm moving on now. Metalheads done their thing.
Yeah.
And then we're really kind of breaking down the whole history of jungle. When Metalheads finished, Garage started.
Yeah.
And Garage was the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
Because man was talking about this thing, it's done.
Our thing.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
Because first of all, we noticed where all the girls? Where all the girls gone? Where all the girls that used to go roast and And because even metalers, it became very male.
Yeah.
Became quite
Masculine,
chin-strokey.
yeah.
And we were like, where's the girls? And then, do you know what happened? How I knew about, because I went to Wax Club when I think Dominic Spreadlove was playing down there.
Yeah.
And the real infancy of garage. And I thought, do you know what? It's got soul and it's got, I like it. It's a mixture of house and R&B. I didn't ever thought it would get as big as it did get. But then in about, I can't remember, 97, 98, we just started Swerve. Swerve was next door at Velvet Rooms, where
that's where it was.
Next door to where Mars was.
That's where it was, yeah.
And we started Swerve there. And one night,
it's actually Velvet Rooms where Billy went on to
Billy went on to Velvet Rooms.
Yeah.
And then the garage thing started happening, and everyone felt the crowds were dwindling a little bit in the jungle raves, and then the Edge Rush era was coming in. Because they took the Metalheads thing and even stripped it down even more.
Yeah, there's a point
made it more industrial.
That's the point I'm making.
And then the girls left.
Yeah, and
they were gone.
Yeah.
They were gone,
You
bro.
really got to be into it at that point.
At the time, you'd have to be. It got so technical. That it was like it became a real boys' club.
Yeah.
It became a little bit of a boys' club.
And I want to be clear that this is not us beating up this music, just so that people know. This is us just extrapolating what happened. Do you get what I mean? This is what happened. Yeah, this is what happened.
You know, and for better or worse, the girls that used to come out weren't into the technical side. Because we,
girls like to dance.
You know, what Ed and those guys were doing was amazing, because we're drum and bass people. That's our thing.
Yeah.
So we got it. We got it. But, if you're on the outside looking in, and a lot of the trendy lot, and they were coming listening to that, going, no.
They just didn't understand.
Then there was an alternative to that now. There was garage.
Yeah.
Garage, which was this smooth music.
People dressing up.
Right? Just like the jungle days.
Yeah.
Right? So the jungle fraternity gravitated towards that. They were like, the jungle fraternity didn't really go Metalheads. No. Metalheads was more the ID face kind of but you used to get a few jungle mans in there still, but the jungle crowd found their home with garage. And I'll never forget one night, me, Groove, Brian, we went Twice as Nice. And bro, we went in there and it was nice in there, Ron. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, look, I'll tell you this.
It was beautiful in there. It was beautiful in there.
You laugh.
Beautiful.
Let me tell you something. The funny thing about Twice as Nice, big up Spoonie and big up Steve and everybody used to run that over there, was that I used to kind of like slip in there. And I slip in and I look up and I either see you, I see Groove.
Yeah.
I see Goldie, and it'd be like...
Goldie was in there on the red.
I say like, look, you see, certain people, it was like, again, another escape. Do you get what I mean? From your regular thing. But look, okay, so, like, we're actually kind of like come to a place now where I remember predominantly, you kind of like thriving in Swerve. Do you know what I mean? And to me now, that music had weathered the storm of the ridicule and the uncertainty and the doubt and all the rest of it. And now here is this club that has now gone, right, you know something? This is us. We've grown up a bit now, do you know what I mean? We understand our music. And I think as well, you also understood your lineups as well.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, you know what I mean? We know Bookham, you get what I mean? Bookham, you know what I mean? Danny would draw.
Yeah.
He would draw out.
Yeah.
But there were people coming in who would kind of own their craft to what Swerve was about. So tell us, for those who weren't able to make it, just kind of like explain what that was about.
Swerve was like an extension of Speed.
Of course it was.
And I really wanted to capture, what we wanted to do was capture the vibe of garage in a funny sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to go to that, if you want to hear soulful drum and bass.
Yeah, it was wicked.
You come to Speed. So it was an alternative to what Ed Rush and them lot were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But not, let's get it straight. It wasn't an alternative like, this is a kind of like anti.
No.
It wasn't that. Actually, we were just trying to kind of live with everybody, but just a different strain.
Yeah, I think at that time, the idea of acceptance in terms of, right, here is this thing. And, we've got to say it as it is. If you say, well, this thing kind of like, you say acid house, that was a particular thing. But if you say that from jungle came these strains, we were actually just learning to accept that, you know what? These are different strains.
Yeah.
Just accept it.
No, it was. By then it was. It was.
Just accept it. It's fine.
By then it was.
But earlier, it was still a bit sort of like anti.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? You lot of dishonouring the meat. But those days are gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now they just understood that at the end of the day we were doing our thing. So you just get man used to come down. It's nice in here.
It was beautiful, yeah.
It was nice.
Really,
do you know what I
really
mean?
nice
It was
club,
very civil and it came at a time with drum and bass, and everyone was talking about drum and bass losing its soul, and garage was everywhere. You know that.
Yeah. And I think to some degree, while garage was doing its thing, it was also turning into the child of jungle. You know what I mean? You could look and you go in there, and the man was in there, and
absolutely. Even a lot of the producers were ex-jungle producers.
Yeah, that's right. And so and a man, so that was, and then so garage was over there. But for me, Swerve was definitely like a nice little, I don't want to call it safe haven because it makes you feel that anything else wasn't. But it was a nice, I loved that spot. Do you know what I mean? I was a regular there, as you know.
Swerve, of course, he was there every week. And Swerve was nice. And you know a great thing about these residencies, Ron? Yeah. These were great meeting places for producers. Yeah. Because producers would come down there and they'd hear tunes and they'd go away and they'd be like...
And I think that of residencies in general, interestingly enough, I brought up this thing about, Goldie earlier and the residency he had at XOYL. Now, considering that Andy had done a residency at XOYL the year before, I didn't get it then. But when Goldie had done his, it dawned on me, our scene needs some residencies. We need a club again.
Yeah, no, we do.
We need a club again where people can come and draw, you know?
Yeah, no, we do. We
need that. You know,
because I think that's one of the biggest things, the biggest issues now, which has made the music very fragmented. Yeah. Because there's no... Because everyone used to come down to Swerve. Andy C played there. You know, Caliber came out as Swerve. Yeah. And then you had the whole Brazilian thing start happening as well with Marquis
and Petit.
They were taking the whole flavour of Liquid and putting their Brazilian spin on it, which was amazing. And then V was putting their little slant on what they were doing. So that was beautiful.
It was a great time, man.
It was a great time.
Yeah,
it was a great time.
That was a really... That is the for me the kind of like, it's not, if there could be possibly two golden eras, I would say that was the second golden era.
I think you know what, I think it was the third, you know.
It could be, you think, if you say acid was the first?
No, because I'd say the early jungle was the first.
Yeah, okay, then what was the second? And then Metalheads was the second.
Metalheads and Speed were the second.
And I think this was the third. Yeah, you're right.
Because I think you will get people from each of those generations that will sit down and go, that was the best.
Yeah, you're right.
Metalheads was the best ever. Then certain men will go, nah, Swerve was. And then certain men will go, no, Rage was. You can't beat that. Yeah. So we've had many kind of big moments.
Big moments.
Do you know what I'm saying? And you know, and then Shy FX done Shake Your Body, Barcelona, DK, and then tunes like How You Make Me Feel by Marcus Intellect.
Yeah. Bro, big tune. That tune. Boy, if you could see underneath my skin right now, the goosebumps just went
even
up.
Hearing,
just thinking about that tune. My goosebumps just went up just thinking about that.
Just thinking about that tune. Because
that's
just
a piece of rhythm.
Music. I would take it away from drum and bass and say...
Yeah, that's a piece of music,
It's just a tune. It's a tune, bro. Yeah. And so that happened, and at the same time, we were in Radio 1, which was great.
I just want to do a quick little rewind, actually, because which leads to Radio 1. And Sarah and you guys as a unit, because there was a period of time where you I mean, yes, I was DJing and whatever, and I may have even had an agent, big up Caroline from Unique Artists, but you guys were this elite at a time. Do you know what I mean? There's that iconic picture, do you know what I mean, of you, Groove, Brian, Frost and Mickey and Sarah.
Yeah.
That was the elite.
Yeah, Rap was on. You got to remember, Rap was on Groove Connection as well.
Yeah, but no buts.
Yeah.
I mean, no buts. I take that back.
I hear
you. Get my point where I'm going. with that.
Yeah.
And then when you hit Radio 1, I was like, them man is in a different hemisphere
got a different sphere now. Yeah,
this is a different hemisphere now.
Yeah,
because this is like going to DJ. The Queen might listen to Radio 1. God rest her soul. The Queen listens to Radio 1.
It was a big thing.
People listen to Radio 1.
It was a big thing.
Do you know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, look at that now.
Yeah, it was a big thing. It was a big thing.
This is not One in the Jungle and everybody. We're talking Fabio and GrooveRider on Radio 1.
And it's Radio 1.
So
yeah, Radio 1 was a. So all of this was happening at the same time.
Yeah, it was a great time.
It was incredible time.
Yeah.
You know, then we started to go abroad for the first time and started to do gigs, and you know, Miami started happening, and
Winter Music Conference.
You know, we're going to Brazil.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was Winter Music Conference. Bro.
Come on.
And it was just an amazing time.
Yeah.
And that, you know, you were a little bit older, so you was a bit more grown up, a bit more adult about life.
Yeah. And the way you carried yourself.
You started to have kids.
Yeah.
Own houses. So we were a little bit more mature, but it was a wonderful time, Ron. The millennium, the start of the millennium was just a beautiful time. And so then, you know, we just kind of like carried on through. And you know what? Drum and bass it's had its moments. It's flat lines, and then it comes back, and then it becomes a little bit uninspired, and it's a bit boring, and everything sounds the same, but it goes in waves, man. Yeah. And you know, Swerve was a great time, but it was just another residency run, and that's what I'm saying. How much residencies are so important to our legacy.
Yeah.
You know, even when you sit down and we do the orchestra, a lot of the tunes from them time are coming from our residencies.
Yeah, of course.
And tunes that we broke.
Yeah. But I just wanted to touch on something you just said about how, you know, like for years almost, do you know what I mean? You know, like the scene has like continued to evolve. And even in the last 5 years, right, from what I've seen of this scene and the new kind of like introduction of like young, youthful, sort of like the energy that is in it, and albeit for potentially at the early stages, a particular type of music. I'm so pleased and happy about the younger generations embracing it and gravitating to all sectors of it for the history of this music. I had a fear at one time that it was just going to be wholesale one style of music, and these children would continue to just be with that. And I'm really pleased, and in many ways honoured at the fact that they have kind of like looking back retrospectively and going, wow, where's this tune? Oh yeah, my dad used to play that, and getting into music that was there. And this kind of brings me sort of like skips along so many years. Brings us up to festivals now that we're like, you know, like they wouldn't even have jungle or drum and bass at a festival. They didn't even have 100%. DJs at a festival. 100%. They didn't even have DJs there. And now you look at these festivals and what's happening there, you know, says to me how healthy this is and what's going on at the moment.
Well, you know, drum and bass, you know, even at the beginning of the whole festival thing, Global Gathering, Creamfields, Homelands, all of those things, drum and bass was a bit of an afterthought. And I don't know if you remember, a lot of those festivals, drum and bass, the tent was always at the back with the worst sound system, but we used to have the best vibe. I remember walking around and going in the house tent and sitting there and thinking, our vibe is much better in here. And it took the festival guys a little while to realise what was actually going on. And now they're giving D&B
the space.
Their flowers, bruv. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like now it's like D&B is up front.
Right up front.
Right up front. And you know, it wasn't always like that. And people have got to understand it's been painstaking to get drum and bass to this stage. And it's great what you're saying, because a lot of the kids now are taking it the way we took Rear Groove. You know, when I was younger, I missed out on the Rear Groove. I mean, on the original.
Because you didn't care.
Do you know what I mean?
You were like a kid.
Yeah, you was like a kid.
Yeah.
But then when I got a little bit older, I was like, oh my God, those tunes.
There you go.
Oh, I missed, and then I got into the whole James Brown
now you're
thing.
trying to get it.
Because the
trying to
history is
source
very
it.
important if you want to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's happening with these kids. When I get these kids come up to me going, what was it like? What was it actually? And they're playing jungle.
Yeah.
And they're obsessed with it, bruv.
Yeah.
They're making jungle.
Making it.
But they weren't there.
Yeah, and they're trying to make it as though they were there.
Like it was there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And they're trying to make exactly the same as it was then.
Yeah, I find that.
That is great. But for me, we were there.
Yeah.
So to me, a lot of it is kind of like, I've moved on from that. Do you know what I mean? But I get it.
Yeah.
I get the way the kids are obsessed with the jungle ethic and the new jungle thing that's happening now. The Nia Archives and Rupture and all these guys that are kind of like doing this whole new jungle thing. It's great because it's just bringing another aspect to what we're doing, man.
Yeah, and they, big up Nia and Rupture, have been going for several years now.
They've been going for a minute.
And big up those guys because they, by sticking with their guns, they are inspiring a new generation.
Well, it's just like, at the end of the day, if you do something different, I like to see people that do something different, just like what me and Groove are doing, and they're outsiders, but they stick to it.
Yeah.
No matter what, you stick to what you're doing because you will have your day. And that's what's happening with them guys. Them guys that, when they were first doing Rupture, no one weren't going to their parties. Right, now it's kind of like, it's absolutely jamming there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And on doing something different, as we come to the close of it, which is great because for those of you who are living under a rock, on Friday just gone, you guys did your second...
Friday and Saturday,
my mistake. I was there on a Friday.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday, I was going to do two sessions of sold out. The Royal... I'm sure the Royal Festival Hall themselves were surprised.
They
Do you
were.
know what I mean? That on 2 nights, you sold out both nights with the Outlook Orchestra, with featuring, obviously you and Groove hosting it, MCGQ. I mean, on this one, obviously, you had, you had Jenna G, you had Cleveland Watkins, but additionally now you had,
Kelly LaRock,
you had...
Conrad,
you had, and the special guest as well with UK Apache.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was phenomenal. That is the word on the street at the moment. The gram is popping off at the moment with that show.
Trust me.
Do you know what I mean?
Me.
Even my missus got a piece of that. Even my missus got 600 likes. for a little photo.
Yeah, okay.
So
everyone's living off of this
everyone's
thing now,
living off of your thing
everyone's
there,
living off of this thing. That's beautiful.
Right? Tell me a bit about that, man, and the inception of it, and obviously, the dusters sort of
Settled
proverbially settled, and we're only a few days after the event. So thanks for being able to make it after such a hectic weekend. You get what I mean?
Emotional.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? It came about because Goldie did his thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And
well, for those who don't know, let's just elaborate on that.
Yeah, of course.
Goldie, many years ago, and I can't remember where it was. It wasn't there though, was it? It was at the Barbican.
I think it was the Barbican.
Yeah, don't quote me on the venue, but what Goldie had done, he had put like a smaller section of an orchestra together. I don't remember who it was, who the orchestra was, but they were playing a series of Metalheads records.
Yeah.
So this is something that's happened before many years ago. Big up Goldie,
absolutely
the sort of like the vision then, do you know what I mean, or whatever.
Yeah.
However it came about, and then fast forward now to was the first one last year.
Last
January,
yeah.
And when you did that then, right? And we were working on a project together, weren't we? Kind of like, you were working, you were going to do that film and whatever with us and whatever. So I was kind of amongst you around that time. And because of that, I watched the show from the wings. So I was backstage and I was watching the show side of stage, walking all about the venue, then tunes playing, So I never really got it. I got it, but I didn't really get it. I was at the rehearsals and I was like, yeah, wicked. Do you know what I mean? I really actually took it for granted.
Yeah, it's a different
thing. Do you know what I mean? I took it for granted.
Different thing.
This time, I'm like, do you know what, Fabs? Hold a guest list. I'm going to go and buy a couple tickets. Do you know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
I want my tickets to be right in the front, right, on the balcony, so I can look. I don't want no one standing in front of me with these tickets, yeah? Those tickets weren't cheap, Fabs.
No, they weren't. No, I know how much you paid for them.
Right? So we were sat there, and I said to Gary, GQ, I said to him, bruv, when I sat there, it was like I was watching Netflix, watching a show on Netflix. I had nobody in front of me, and I was just sat in my armchair, leaning back, and I was like, really?
You were soaking it up.
I was like, yo, my wife was there bopping up and down, hands in the air, the whole thing, throughout the whole night. And I looked at this and I thought to myself, look at these guys. Do you know what I mean? I've seen it already, but I never saw it in that context. To me, it was epic.
Yeah, well, the Outlook Orchestra came up with the idea. And then Charlotte kind of...
Big up Charlotte.
Charlotte management, she kind of put a few strings together. And they said, look, do you want to collate this orchestra, curate it, and get a track list together? And we'll see what we can do. So it was like, how is this going to work? We've chosen 40 tracks. They've then got to get all the orchestra to get... You got to remember as well, the orchestra... They're not drum and bass people.
No, yeah.
These are classically trained musicians. And what I love about it, they were all young, very multicultural as well. They were, you'd love your child to be a part of that. I was looking at them thinking, they're all kids.
Yeah, they're young people.
They're young people. There was no one there over the age of, in any...
35 and all of that.
Nothing like that.
Nowhere near.
It was young people.
Yeah.
And
I didn't think even
they were
30.
lovely
they
to
were
work
like in
with.
their 30s, max.
Yeah, no, it's maximum.
Yeah.
And they were lovely to work with. And it's a 40-piece orchestra with a huge string section. And I remember them turning around and going, right, we've nailed it. We've got the tracks down. Let's get a venue. We went to the South Bank Centre, the Royal Festival Hall, and they agreed to do it. Outlook had some links there. And we done the first one last Jan. We went to the rehearsals, which you went to. And we were a bit, you have no idea, looking at the rehearsals, how that's going to translate into the Royal Festival Hall, which is an iconic place.
Of course it is.
Some of the great actors and musicians and entertainers have played there. And you go in there and it's like a theatre, like a small amphitheatre, isn't it?
Of course it is.
But you don't feel like you're in a rave. It's not like a rave thing. So everyone sits down, and that's why GQ at the start goes, everyone get up off your seat. This ain't no sit down, you ain't watching the Royal Symphony Orchestra.
I sat through the whole thing.
Big man. Big man team.
I had there was, where we were, with like the first row like this, there was nobody in front of me.
That's
they was down there. And
so
I
you
was
could just sit down.
I put my little
soak
sheepskin thing like that.
Yeah.
And the fur was all there.
Yeah.
And I just sat back in the chair and I was so comfortable. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
And the great thing about it is that there's nothing like live music, Ron.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Nothing can beat like people playing their instruments.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't beat. There's an organic feeling about hearing music, and we're also used to digitize music and music coming out of computers. That when was the last time you really went? You probably have much more than I have gone and seen a live show. But whenever you get to see a live show, you get a different feeling.
Yeah, it's a different vibe.
It's a different feeling.
And it doesn't matter how big or small.
Or small it is, it doesn't matter.
I think what it is, I think it's because we're in music, you appreciate when you see somebody playing that, and that combined with somebody playing it, and him's combined with it, and combined, they're creating something. There's something very special in that.
It's incredible.
I just wanted to say, with regards to the orchestra as well, additionally to that, about also just the overall production, the lighting show. Do you know what I mean? Obviously the talent. I mean, Jenna, she was just on a She was just on a next level. Bro.
Crazy.
Do you know what I mean?
Crazy.
Next level. As were all of the time and all of the artists on the night, but. I had to get to this point before we finished the night.
But you know what? The behind the scenes, there's so much. This because any production, any big production, everyone has got to be pushing in the same direction.
Yeah,
Else it doesn't
and
work.
those roles, I mean, those roles never really get spoken about.
They never get spoken about, and there's a lot of behind the scenes. And as you know, with anything, if it was filmed, you'd see how stressful it is as well, Ron. It's really stressful.
Bro, I think I put it on a post of yours, and I thought, I stood there, I could go anywhere, and I know the production levels that go into it. And I wrote on a post
Yes,
that
you
you
did,
put,
you
and
did,
I said,
you did.
I could see the components
Yes,
that have to go
you
into
did.
that. Do
You
you
did.
get what I mean? And
You know, as you said, you know, even with what you do here,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people sit down and think you just sit
and they just
down.
watch it.
It's not.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
planning.
yeah.
There's meticulous attention to detail.
Yeah, meticulous attention to detail. I saw on the night.
Right,
Yeah,
there was every little thing. You know, even the intro. We sat down and spoke about how are we just gonna make GQ do it, or we're gonna add Goldie onto the end of it. And this was all last minute. All this stuff was done last minute, and then you get the nervous energy before. So even though we've done these things, when you're living the moment, you don't realise what's going on. You do, because you feel the energy. But when I look back on things, I'm like, shit. Is that what happened? Is that what was going down?
Yeah, I bet it is.
Because sometimes then you're kind of, it's like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, it's like an out-of-body experience.
You know what
because,
I mean?
you know, I mean, I don't want to harp on about it, but I do, you know what I mean? But I did this, from my phone, I did this video. And in the end, I sort of like panned, you know what I mean? I'm trying to do it like all professional off my iPhone. And I did this pan, yeah? And I panned up to the boxes. And I thought, there are thousands of people in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All of them are up on their feet.
Yeah.
They're all like, what? I was just like, and then when you go back, you're like this tiny thing on the stage. And then I think to myself, wait until you get home and you see the videos.
Yeah.
That's when it's gonna dawn on you how big potentially.
But you know, one of the greatest things, just before we finish.
Yeah.
And this is a story. This is the reason why we do shit sometimes. There was a guy who hit me up, and he said to me, yeah, it was amazing, blah, blah, blah. And he said his wife hates drum and bass. And he said for years, for 5-6 years, he's been trying to get him into it. He's played her Liquid, he's played her everything, chart stuff, and she hates it. She said it's like a car falling backwards down a hill. So he bought her tickets to the orchestra, and he was like, look, all right, come to the orchestra. This is my last go at trying to kind of convert you. And she was like, you know I hate this music. He went, just come to the orchestra. He came last year with his friends. Anyway, he brought his wife there. He said his wife was a bit kind of like, you know, she was sitting down, and afterwards he went, did you enjoy it? She went, oh yeah, it was really good. But he said she was still a bit quiet. And he said the next morning, I think she's a nurse, on the way to work, he got up, went down in the kitchen, and she downloaded 25 years of Fabio GrooveRider. And she had Alien Girl. She was listening to Alien Girl, and he went, okay, what? Oh, you don't want to say to me that you got touched like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she was like, oh my God. I didn't want to say it to you, but
amazing.
It blew me away.
That's a classic, isn't it? That you can't really get this music, like you couldn't get Acid House, unless you're at the club.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't listen to it on the radio and sit down and go, oh my God, I've been converted.
Yeah.
You've got to go. And I think what he said as well was that because it was a sit-down kind of event, he said she sat down for the first half hour because she didn't, you know, it was the early 90s stuff as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So she was a bit like, but by the end, when Con came on and Cleveland, and it turned into, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
This is some real shit. There's songs. I didn't know what these is.
Yeah.
This Jenna G girl, boy, she can sing.
She can blow, man.
Kelly LaRock, oh my God, this is Ready or Not, the Fugees. Drum and she got taken, and she got it. And that's the thing coming round after everything we've said, Ron, and me, you, everyone that's involved in this thing. There's a magic, there's an alchemy to drum and bass that we can't put our finger on it.
No, all these years.
I don't even know why I like it as much as I do, Ron.
Yeah.
You know, I've sat down and thought at times, especially in the dark days, have I just turned into an idiot?
Yeah, what the hell am I
I
doing?
was sitting down listening to Marvin Gaye and them lot, and I'm listening to this.
Yeah.
And is it me, or has my taste just gone?
No, it's not.
But
that.
it's
something we can't articulate.
we can't.
Yeah.
And there's people that come from, there was people there that worked for the NHS. There was, doctors there. There was real professional people.
Yeah, of course.
There.
There's going to be people from all
walks of life.
Yeah,
and it's amazing that, they know what the shit is.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, Fabio, God, I'm 95. I used to do this, and I come and listen to you guys. And so, this music is special, Ron.
Yeah.
And even though you said you came out of it for a little while, it's there. It's still there.
Of course it is.
It's there. It's pulsing. It's there.
It would never leave.
It's like, never going to leave you.
It's like trying to write with your left hand. You know what I mean? You're always going to come back to write with your right hand.
Always.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, I'm so glad to have just been a part of the journey. I suppose we all have. You know what I mean? And on that note, Fabio, you know what I mean? I'd like to say thank you so much for taking the time to come and spend this with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, before I go, you know what? One day you need to remix African Chant.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember when I first heard that tune.
Okay.
Even Crackman on the Line and all those tunes, Rod. You didn't really pursue that being an artist. And
no, that's right.
The tunes you made, Crackman, I loved Crackman on the Line. And one of the best sets I've ever, well, not the best sets, one of the most iconic sets I've ever played was The Wedding at Amnesia House.
Yeah. Mickey Linus's wedding. Yeah.
And I had Crackman on dub.
Yeah.
And I played that there. And I always remember, and African Chant and... Bro.
Who knows, man? Do you know what I mean? Who knows? You know what I mean? Roll on 2023. That's my motto at the moment.
You know what? It's true. You never know, man.
You never know.
Next year, it might be me turning around interviewing you. You never know.
Who knows?
Come on now, big man.
Fabs. Bless up,
Ron,
brother.
that was beautiful.
Thank
and
you
long
very
overdue
much.
as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, brother. Yeah, love that.